This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Carmen Hall, Community Assistance Director. I just wanted to go through and introduce some of the staff members that are present today. And as I say your names, if you could stand up, please. First, we have from Community Services, we have Donna Butler, the Community Services Director. We also have Tim Bailey, the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Director. We also have from Community Services, Jill Markham. She is the ECHO Administrative Coordinator. And then I believe we have Bobby King here, or there she is. She's the Operations Manager for Community Services. We also have Russ Brown, who you just met from the County Attorney's Office. And from Budget, we have Aaron Van Cleek. He is the Budget, our Management and Budget Director. We also have from Community Information, Gary Daniels and Daryl Hill, and they're helping us with all of our IT equipment today. All right.
Right.
Oh, and also, sorry, we have Clay Irvin, our Growth and Resource Management Director. Yep. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Our next item on the agenda is to approval of the minutes from October 2020. Has everyone on the board had a chance to review them? And does anyone have any comments? With that, do I have a motion to approve? I was here and they look correct. So with that, we need a motion on that to approve.
Motion to approve the October 22nd minutes.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Our next item on the agenda is a presentation from Russ Brown regarding the sunshine laws and Robert's Rules of Order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Russ Brown from the County Attorney's Office. I know this is the most exciting part of today's meeting. I'm looking forward to this. I know it's April Fool's, but all right. So a little bit of sunshine in the public records law. I'll try to go through this somewhat quickly. If you have any questions, please stop me in the middle. I'd much rather like back and forth. If anybody has any questions, rather than waiting to the end, I think that's just easier to do that. I know most of you have had this, you're very familiar with it. So I won't try to, enlong anything. Sunshine, Florida Constitution says that all meetings of any actual collegial public body of a county, municipality, local government, essentially, at which official acts are to be taken, at which public business of such a body is to be transacted or discussed, shall be open and notice to the public, except when such meetings are exempted pursuant to this section, which are known as shade meetings, where you typically bring an umbrella so you're in the shade. That's a bad joke. All right. 3 basic requirements of the meetings. Public boards or commissions must be open to the public. They must be noticed, and the minutes of the meeting must be recorded or taken down. A meeting occurs when there is any gathering, whether formal or casual, of 2 or more members of the same board or commission to discuss some matter on which foreseeable action will be taken by the board or commission. The gathering can include a meeting of boards or commission members via telephone or other electronic means. So we're in the 21st century. A lot of meetings, as we know through the recent emergency orders with COVID and the pandemic, we were allowed to have a quorum be electronic as opposed to physical. And that's no longer the case. So now in Florida, we have to have a physical quorum. Before, like you just did, because of extraordinary circumstances, permitted 2 members to attend and participate virtually. That's because you have a physical quorum here present. So just be aware that there is the ability to have these meetings virtually now as opposed to in person. That doesn't mean it's not a public meeting. So as long as there's no interaction or discussion, debate, or response between the parties about the issues outside of a public meeting, it's not a violation of the government and the sunshine law, right? So you can go and attend other commission meetings. You can comment on items. You just have to be careful about when there's 2 members of you on the same board at a meeting, and you gathering into a dialogue or discussion about a matter that could be coming before you, has been before you, and an agenda that you're going to be taking action on. So just be careful of that. Doesn't mean you can't socially gather or talk to your fellow committee members. Just be careful about what you discuss about a matter before the board that you're going to take action on. What kinds of discussions? These are pretty self-evident: email, telephone, the webinars now we have, even inaudible discussions. So if something's being presented and you start whispering, that can be potentially a violation of the sunshine if you're talking about the matters not in an open public forum of the agenda that are before you. So just be careful about that. Can't act as a liaison between one another. So, or staff can't do it as well, right? Staff, we can give you information. We can share that information. You can actually share information with your other council people if you send it out to everybody else. We just ask that you don't hit reply off. We do that. We can walk you through that. But if, like Mr. Patterson couldn't come to me and say, hey, please go tell Miss Sarah Lee Morrissey this. I can't be a conduit by which to provide information. That would be a violation of the sunshine. There are shade examples that I just talked about. These are instances where you can have things in the shade where it doesn't have to be open to the public. No reason to go into that at this time. If that ever comes up, we'll have those specific discussions at that time. Notice must be reasonable. That's about the meeting. Notice for meetings, it just tells your staff will take care of this. Nothing for you to worry about other than if you can't meet a meeting, those types of things, and they'll coordinate that with you. But this is really for staff getting the notice of the meetings out. There will be, I believe, 5 listening sessions in the community for ECHO. And one of the things that came up in the Forever Committee that I hadn't really thought about until then, but you have guidance in your ECHO Committee organization resolution, just like Forever, that says you can't miss 2 meetings in a calendar year or your seat's vacated. So technically these listening sessions are public meetings. So what we're doing with the county council April 6th, next Tuesday, is one of the consent agenda items is to make sure these listening sessions don't count against those 2 meetings missed. So we'll have that taken care of, but that is in your resolution, just to be aware. Just talks about how the minutes are recorded or taken down in the Florida statute. That talks about that. Public participation, generally you can set rules and some limits about public participation. I'm sure you'll have some public participation today with the matter before the agenda, before the committee on the agenda. But generally, the general rule is anytime before you take action, you have to give the public an opportunity to commit on the item that you're taking action for, or gonna talk about that day, take action on, excuse me. Penalties and sanctions, you can be fined, you can be suspended, you can be removed, attorney fees and costs, there's a lawsuit. There has been some cases, some extreme cases of that. There's a pretty infamous one where council members or commission members were texting one another back and forth while people were talking on the dais and presenting stuff to them about that matter. That is a sunshine violation. That was found to be a sunshine violation. So just remember that. And that goes into the public records. What is a public record? Essentially, it's anything that you have done in the course of the public business that has any type of documentation on it about that matter, right? Generally that you share with others. So that was kind of a lot of words from Russ Brown talking about essentially if you take notes, your own notes, and you don't show them to others, you're okay. That's not a public record. The minute you share that with somebody else, that's a public record. But so text messaging, emails, those are public records. If we ever get a public records request and that comes in, staff will work with you to simulate that, because most of that stuff you've sent an email to somebody in the county or the staff and it's easy to get. But just be mindful that, if you use your personal email to another council member, a personal email about a matter on the agenda, county business, that technically is a public record. So just, not to mention a violation of sunshine if you're 2 committee members, so just be careful. So this is the public record statute 119. We talked about this. Anything pretty much can be a public record, anything that has a record, some type of historical memorialization, essentially. Pretty broad definition of the public record. We talked about this, even for staff, once we make a rough draft or things like that, that's also a public record. So just be mindful of that. Again, it goes your personal notes. We talked about that. Is that it, Jim? That's not it, is it? Is that it? Is that the last slide? All right. That's good, right? April Fools. All right. So I usually have a slide that comes up with questions. So I apologize for that. Does anybody have any questions on sunshine and public records? Very quick. I don't want to bore anybody. I want to answer any questions you have. I want to make sure you understand. I think it's pretty self-evident, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Sunshine and public records. Okay. The next thing I'll talk about are And we don't have to do it today because I don't think we have to choose a new chair or vice until July. I think that's right. And so we can talk about it there. You are fortunate enough that you have a parliamentarian on your council here who can answer any Robert's rules better than I can. But essentially, motion made, seconded, you can make an amendment to the motion, then you have to second that, and then you vote on the original motion if that comes up. I know that it's very general, but it should be pretty self-evident. I don't think there'll be anything too complicated if it does come up. I'm happy to answer any questions at that time if it does. And then I'll also ask, make sure Mr. Patterson agrees with my recommendation based on his background. Does anybody have any questions about Robert's rules?
I don't think I'm the designated parliamentarian.
I know, sir, I know, but I do know that you know it very well, Mr. Patterson.
I am a member of the National Association.
Yeah, more certificates about it than I do. Yes, sir. Does anybody have any questions? All right, pretty quick.
Thank you, Russ.
Yes, sir.
Before we continue, I'd like the record to reflect that Pat Northey is here. She's another one of our committee members. So, and with that, we will be moving on. The next item on our agenda today is the ECHO financials. Aaron Van Cleek is going to give us a presentation on that.
Good afternoon, Aaron Van Cleek, Management and Budget Director. Since the original inception of ECHO, the ECHO levy has generated $111,618,851.32. That's not just ad valorem taxes, that's also investment income. Out of that revenue, ECHO has grant and direct expenditure awards of $92 million, which includes $16 million for the trails set aside. Out of the award, $85.4 million has been expended, with $6.6 million still obligated. The ECHO tax levy also requires a payment to 13 different community redevelopment agencies. We call them CRAs. And that has totaled $3.7 million through the life of the program. So the total expenses for the ECHO fund has been $89,089,702.70. Simple math problem. Revenues minus expenses gives you $22,529,148.62 available in the fund. Out of that $22 million, you can see up there that the $6.6 million is reserved for prior year grant commitments. And then we have pledged this year the final debt service payment of $510,339. And that is the debt service for trails construction. It is in a separate county fund. It does not get paid out of ECHO, but that debt service payment gets transferred from the ECHO fund to the trails fund for that purpose. And then that gives you your available balance of $15,393,962 that is free and clear, unobligated for any grant awards or direction of the board. Next up, the millage levy. You have a maximum of 0.2 mills that you can levy, or that the county council can levy for this program. Based on the 2020 taxable values, that amount for this year would have levied $7.6 million in ad valorem taxes. Obviously, the ECHO tax was not levied this year. However, you can use that amount to plan for next year, providing the taxable value stays the same. All signs at this point point to the taxable value rising. So if the taxable value does rise, there will be a little bit more money available as far as revenue goes. And then the average annual expenditures in the fund are $4,688,932. That gives you a very brief overview of the financials and gives you your money available. And then I can answer any specific questions you may have.
Two questions. Could you repeat for me the 89 million? I missed the rest. And that is from what point in time to what point in time?
So the 89 million, it's $89,089,702.70. And that is since the inception of the fund, or inception of the ECHO program. 2002 was the first year any expenses occurred. And that's up to as of 9/30/2020. So it would not include any expenses of this year. The only planned expense of this year is the $510,000, other than prior year grant awards, which would be accounted for within that 6.6 million.
Okay. And then my other question, I just want to clarify on this handout that we have. It says average annual expenditures 4.946 at 4.68. I just want to
It
make
was a
sure I know
typo that
which
was
is the right
corrected.
one.
The average is, and if you take the 89 million and divide by 19, you'll get to the
That one's the correct one?
4,688,932. Yes.
Okay.
Am I on? Okay. Did I understand you to say that the echo tax was not levied this year?
We did not levy a millage for 2020.
Oh, that's right. The council decided that it was on there to be levied and they decided not to.
They
I'm
decided
sorry,
not to
that's right.
levy, and the thought process behind that was the available balance that you would still have to offer grants.
So this fiscal year coming up, 21, 22, that starts in the fall, is there a levy then?
There would be a levy then based on the
Based
voters approving the
on-
new.
But not on the new one, not the old one.
I'm sorry.
We're done with the old program.
Correct. Now, council can decide not to levy that millage, but I have not seen any indication that that would happen.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Next item, we'll be discussing the ECHO listening sessions, which are coming up. And, Carmen will tell us about that.
Good afternoon again, Carmen Hall, Community Assistance Director. As you all are aware, upcoming are ECHO listening sessions. There will be 5 different sessions located in each district. We do have a presentation. The PowerPoint presentation is included in your board packet that you received today. That presentation right now is in a PowerPoint format. However, we are working with community information to do a voiceover. So that the intent of that is that the same PowerPoint presentation with the same narrative will be presented at each ECHO listening session. And also we'll have it available online for those who cannot attend in person. They'll be able to watch the presentation and then have the opportunity to provide public comment virtually at that time. So if you, I can kind of go over the presentation, just a little outline of what's going to be discussed. First, there will be a viewing of an ECHO video, which kind of goes over the history of ECHO and then also the accomplishments. So it's a short less than 10-minute video. It'll go over that information. We also have the process on how to apply for the various grants. And then it also includes the current recommendations that were provided by the internal audit and then also by this ECHO Advisory Committee a few months ago when you guys went through the process. We had a few advisory meetings that we went through the process and the committee made recommendations for the ECHO program. So we'll actually go over all those recommendations, present those to the public, and then they can provide public comment and we will of course listen and take notes. Do you guys have any questions on that process? As far as attendance goes, I know everybody participated in the little survey. We anticipate a minimum of 7, if not all 9 board members present at every meeting. So we should not have a problem with quorum. But if anything changes and you are unable to attend a meeting that you previously had said that you would, if you could just let me know so we can ensure that we do have quorum at all the meetings. Pat?
Yeah, thank you, Carmen. What, upon completion of the listening sessions and the staff putting the information together, what is the timeline then for moving forward to council? When do we expect that council will address implementation language?
Well, first, staff will have to compile all the information and we will bring it back to the ECHO Advisory Committee. I believe right now we have a meeting scheduled we're in April, so it is the end of May. There's already a meeting on the agenda, or June, or June. So,
Okay.
and so we can bring it back at that time for discussion. And if you feel that it's necessary to have more than one meeting, we can do that also.
So we will hear it before it goes to the
Correct.
council for adoption.
Yes,
Okay.
you would have to make a recommendation on the items.
Actually, what I've requested, Donna Butler, Community Services Director, you all will have a joint workshop with them to sit down and talk and have a good discussion
Good deal.
so that you all can say what you think. You can hear their feedback and maybe you make adjustments on the fly right then because they have a perspective that you hadn't thought of or vice versa. So we're hoping for the end of May, but the first meeting in June might also, it just kind of depends on everything that has to come and how we can fit it in the schedule. But it is going to be on one of those 2 days because that's been the commitment that they've requested and we promised.
Great. That sounds good.
You guys have any other? Sarah Lee? Yes, there will be an opportunity to participate remotely. All of the, there'll be 2 versions. Everything will be streamed through GoToMeeting, so they could watch the presentation and the public participation live, or they can view the presentation at their own time. It will be available online and submit public comment virtually online. So. We do not require masks, but we don't have the plastic dividers like we have in this room for those meetings.
I meant for the public to enter, not knowing what the setup's going to be and not knowing what everybody's situation is.
We do not require them, but we will have them available for the public. And we can, yes, we can socially distance the chairs the way we have it set up and the committee.
And then what will be your expectation of the committee in terms of how, can they sit wherever they want or what are we supposed to?
So staff will be making the presentation and so the committee will be there to listen. The way we have it now is there are chairs available towards the front of the room and we can socially distance those chairs.
We anticipate that you all will probably want to have a dialogue. Someone may come up and have an idea that's maybe different than a recommendation that you previously made. And I would assume that you'd want to understand a little bit more. Myself and Bobby King will be there to kind of facilitate a mic when we're not in this room. So we can take the mic to the person that wants to speak because we've got to make sure it's recorded, but then also maybe reframe the statement so that everybody is on the same page and making sure that is what they wanted and that what you understand. And then if there's questions, they can be asked back and forth. You all will be mic'd, they will not. That's why we'll have a wandering mic and we'll have 2 set up for that at each location. So we don't have a defined absolute way we're going to run it. We want to make sure that in 2 hours we get to hear from as many people as possible and you all get to have dialogue with those people that want to share their voice. So if you have any recommendations on a better way to do it, we'll be glad to listen, but we're trying to also mimic how we do that for Volusia Echo and Volusia Forever so that the audiences that are coming that are probably interested in both have the same feel, have the same ability to participate and share what they want to share.
Is there any other questions?
Yes, Carmen. How will the public be informed and encouraged to participate?
So all of the information, of course, is posted on our website. We
Yeah.
also have released a press release, but we will do that again. And then community information, they are also posting the information on social media.
Okay.
Question? 10 years ago, when we did these listening sessions, there was also a written survey that went out to the public that they were able to respond to.
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing anything like that?
So we do have a virtual version. It is online, but it is a survey that the public can participate. It's not posted yet, but when we do post the actual video of the presentation, that survey will be available at that time.
Okay, so does that survey ask questions about the program? What people see as the most important thing on their mind?
It outlines the previous recommendations by the auditor and then also by the ECHO Advisory Committee. It outlines those, and then it asks if they agree or disagree and has a spot for comments. And then there's also a space for, you can write any comment that you would like and make recommendations. Yep. Good. All right. Go to the next.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. Well, now we're moving into something really much more interesting, new business. And the first item on our agenda is the Plantation Oaks Critical Historic Acquisition Application. And the presentation will be given by Donna Butler.
Good afternoon again, Donna Butler, Community Services Director. So I'm pleased to bring this application from our Parks and Recreation Division to you all for your consideration today. I want to start with the fact that while this is a critical historic acquisition, kind of need my PowerPoint, and stabilization grant application, and we feel that it falls underneath the qualifications for meeting the guidelines set aside for this particular type of program. It's also going to require consideration for direct council expenditure. So I'll go through it and talk to you about it, and then at the end we'll talk about that. I know that there are quite a few people here that want to speak in regards to this, and I believe that you're going to allow them to do it when I'm done, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so the Plantation Oaks acquisition. In January of this year, the council directed staff to look into financial options to acquire approximately 36 acres, and I know there's some questions about that, about the actual acreage, that fronts the west side of Old Dixie Highway, just north of the Plantation Oaks subdivision. From Dream Green Volusia, a grassroots organization that gathers signatures, over 65,000 of them, on a petition to support the purchase of this property to protect it from the development of 76 single-family lots. So at the direction, it was to look at all different funding sources. We looked at DEP, FCT, FERDAP, RTP, and if you want to know what all those initials stand for, I can share them with you, but there are a variety of different state agencies that provide funding for the acquisition or development of park property. Many of them were potentially applicable, but we were past the deadline for all of them. So we continued looking at other sources. Okay, so how is this property significant? For those of you that have been here before, you know that we have to prove its historical significance in order for it to qualify for this. So it was determined that the best option was the ECHO Critical Historic Acquisition and Stabilization due to its historic significance of the property. The project could be eligible for the National Registry of Historic Places and was recently supported by the Volusia County Historic Preservation Board as having significant historic resources and could be eligible for local designation. Several historic sites were noted, but in a recent analysis, it was documented that portions of Old Kings Road were actually found on the property that's being considered to purchase. So why is this an emergency? So I'm not really talented graphically, but I hope you can see the red circle. All the colors available to me were in the map. So the red circle down here, the lower part where they're light blue, little units are the 76 different single family parcels that are part of this proposed property. Somehow I think I went too far. Back up. All right, Joe. Keep going. Sorry about that. So what are our plans? If this property is purchased, staff could develop the property into a park. Amenities could include a shell parking area, a 4-foot wide nature trail that would connect. And this is where it gets kind of interesting. I apologize that the map is kind of small, but the shaded green area represents a trail that would begin at the beginning of this parcel and go up north. It would then go up the road beyond that, up to the Ormond Tomb Park, and then Bulow Creek State Park. From end to end, and including the internal trails, it would make approximately 9.4 miles of trail that are all nature trails. At the site, we'd also have pavilion, picnic tables, grills, and a portalette, and interpretive panels that provide education of Old Kings Road and the other on-site historical artifacts. The cost of the development is approximately $34,000 and would come from the park's general fund budget. Annual maintenance would be about $6,500 per year with a possible increase due to personnel. So here's where we get into the different way of looking at this. Normally, we would be requesting match of dollar for dollar. That would be approximately $494,000 that we would have to come up with to match an ECHO grant. We have come up with $234,647. We have two contributions. Dream Green contribution is $2,500. North Florida Trust, $12,500. Both of them jointly raised funds specifically for the purchase of this property. So the remainder request would be $738,353. You do have the authority to make a recommendation to the council for a direct county expenditure. It's your call if you want to do that. What we have committed, Tim's staff will continue looking at those state grants that we've passed the date for submission for. And if any of those grants become available and we can apply for and receive funds retroactively for this purchase, if it goes forward, we would credit the ECHO account once we receive those funds. Additionally, the Dream Green contribution, North Florida Trust may raise additional funds that could also go to this. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I got a
Mr. Alt.
on page 4 of the packet that you sent out last week to us, these numbers look different than what you just had up there.
Right. So I know that are you referring to the acreage?
No,
No.
They're presented differently.
well, yeah, on page 4 of what you sent out to us, it just says 249,647 ECHO grant.
Well, I don't have that in front of me. I apologize, but hang on, it's not going to help, Jill. So the total, it's phrased a little differently than I would have put it. So the total purchase price is $988,000. What the County of Volusia Parks Recreation has available is $234,647. In additional, there's another $15,000.
Okay, so the 234 is from Parks and Rec. County Council did not.
It's the county match that we would provide to match the ECHO dollars. If I add the 234 and 15,000, subtract that from 988, we still need $738,353 potentially from the ECHO fund.
I think I'm where Mr. Alt is and trying to make sure I'm clear on the request. So is the request for $738,353 or for $249,647? Yeah, right? Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't see the words that council decision, but yes, that is a council. Let me clarify. The whole thing is a council decision.
Mm-hmm.
We have $239,000, sorry, sitting in our bank account right now that we can use as match. If we're going to complete the project, we need to finish the match, which is what he's referring to, and then we need the half of the grant, which is the $488,000.
But you're asking the ECHO board
to make a recommendation, if you so choose. You'll need to hear from the public. You need to have a discussion.
Understood, but the
request that's listed here would require $738,353 in ECHO grant funds. County's providing approximately 25% of the entire project.
I have a question that's kind of related to the dollars, but you were saying that the improvements are not in these numbers.
Correct.
And so those are additional park, I guess, the recreational funds, your normal funds are coming for that?
It comes from our general fund.
Okay. And in that general fund, does that include all of the trail that you're speaking of, all the way up to the Ormond Tomb?
Those funds only develop that particular site as a park.
I see. So everything, okay.
Development of the trail would continue on. It would take us a while to get there.
Right. So our dollars, the dollars we're talking about, strictly the acquisition of the property itself.
Yes.
So, there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So under the normal historic stabilization program.
They can't hear you.
Okay, under the normal under the echo emergency stabilization grant is usually a 1-to-1 match.
Right. And it goes up to 600,000, unlike the regular grant that's currently at 400. So it's 600 for a maximum of 1.2.
But we only have, the county only has 234 plus another, what, 15,000?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this board, this committee is being asked to do, it sounds to me like one of two things. One, approve an emergency historic stabilization match, which is
right,
less than 738,353. And then the remainder of that would be a direct appropriation from ECHO. Is that the way I understand that?
Direct county expenditure is what we call a DCE.
Direct county expenditure, but it comes out of ECHO funds.
Yes.
And
It's been done multiple times before. And several times it was done without coming to the ECHO board.
a lot of times it was done without coming to the ECHO board.
Yeah.
So a resolution was put in place. So it gives you all the ability to say, hey, it's a worthwhile project, or we don't think it is, but it's a worthwhile project. And we agreed that since there's not enough match available, we agree for a direct county expenditure out of ECHO funds. If you disagree, that's fine too, but it gives you that ability to make a recommendation. And the council has requested that you all go through that process to provide direction to them however you see fit.
Right. Good.
Thank you, Pat.
Any other questions that I can answer?
Are we open floor now for questions? Generally, are you talking about specifically
This project, I'll be happy to answer. I believe there's quite a few folks that want to provide.
Well,
I have some questions. Yeah.
Okay.
And I noticed it was here in one of the charts that you showed, it said updated Old Kings Road path. And I was wondering what that is in comparison to what they say is the road bed itself.
Well, that's really technical.
Oh.
We have a consultant that actually went out on the field and looked at this. If you'd like to hear the answer from her, because I'm not sure that any prepared to answer that question.
I'm more curious than anything, though.
She's available online specifically for the tough questions like that.
I didn't know it was tough.
Jessica, could you unmute yourself, please?
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Did you hear the question?
Yes. This is Jess Fish. I'm an archaeologist with Southeastern Archaeological Research, and we were a consultant on this project. So your question basically is the question about it being an updated location. Currently, the resource is recorded on the Florida Master Site file along the western edge of the parcel, which is currently a utility corridor of some sort. But our field visit indicates that the actual location of the road would be farther to the east, closer to a sand ridge. That hasn't been updated with the Florida Master Site file officially yet, so that's why it's referred to as the updated location, just to kind of clarify the difference, if that makes sense.
It makes some sense. But what I mean, it appears that the road runs quite straight, and that appears to be, not straight, if you will. And so I find I just trying to make the two come together. But I'm really not that concerned about it as much as I was just curious when it was on the map itself.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
Before you move on. Okay, so it actually says 6 inches here away from the mic. So anyway,
we're talking softly today.
Okay, I won't talk softly. So the road what we saw on the maps, how much of the road and or the trail is in the current conservation easement? Because we didn't talk about the fact that there is some of this property in current conservation easement, and we're not asking to purchase that, are we? They're not
So
board to purchase the
our attorney can
conservation
answer that a
easement.
little bit better if I mess this up. However, we are purchasing the property underneath it.
Okay.
The property is separate from the easement. Do you want to weigh in, Mr.
Yeah,
Brown?
my understanding is part of the purchase is the fee over which the conservation easement lies.
And then does the conservation easement accrue to the county for responsibility of maintaining it?
I believe that the county will be responsible for maintaining the conservation easement pursuant to the district's requirements, because the water management district
Right.
conservation easement. Yes, ma'am.
And they're, right now, don't they take care of, or they're responsible for it?
They being the district? Well, my understanding it's
It's
I
just
think right now
nobody's
it's,
being responsible. It's just a conservation easement is what you're telling me.
well, it's a conservation easement like any other subservient estates rights. They have the ability to enforce the requirements of the easement, but generally the easement conditions are put upon the underlying fee owner. So they're responsible for maintaining and ensuring that they're in compliance with the conservation easement requirements. But the district can come in and enforce their easement rights if they find that
Which
there's,
would then become us if we purchase that
ma'am.
property. So we're purchasing all of it, not just, or not less the property that's under conservation easement.
My understanding is that the purchase includes the fee under which the conservation easement lies.
And so does any part of the trail lie in that conservation easement?
The proposed trail?
The proposed
No,
trail?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
We will still be conserving that easement as currently.
Okay.
Does the proposed trail work in the easement towards the Ormond tomb? I guess it does, doesn't it?
We're staying out of the easement. We will-
Really, even between the
There's
Ormond,
probably a little tiny piece at the very top when we have to make a right-hand turn to go up and meet with the road. We're going to have to figure out a little tiny bridge that goes over the little Strickland Canal there.
right?
And so, at some point we may be jotting over, but I think the Strickland Canal is actually on the very northern border. So we're doing everything we can to avoid that conservation easement and avoid anything else. There's a few gopher tortoise areas there. There's obviously some of the historic things, sites that are on there as well as the road. And we'll document all those, have appropriate signage if we move forward with the project. But no, we will be staying out of the conservation easement.
Yeah. That's of this property, but what about the property between the Ormond Tomb Park and this property?
Separate project, we're
Right,
not
and
there
in a
yet.
separate, is that in that separate project, are you intending to be in the easement?
I don't know yet.
Because it's a buffer, it's the only place you can go.
Be in the right of way.
Oh, okay. That leads me to another question. Was there any consideration given to making this a bike path as well as a walking trail?
Probably not, primarily because it can do a lot more damage to have bikes on the. There are some people that could probably ride a bike if they're riding the right kind of bike. Majority of folks that actually like to enjoy the loop via bike generally are using a different bike to be on the road than they want to use on a very bumpy dirt path.
Right.
Doesn't mean that they can't. And someone could come and park at one end or the other once we complete, get off, and if they really wanted to put a bike through there, they could. But I would imagine that a dirt type of bike.
I see. So bicycles would be allowed on this trail?
They would be allowed. They would not be prohibited. Probably not really encouraged, though, in a historically significant area, but that's not to say that they can't.
Understood.
Mr. Chair Russ Brown, I just want to make sure Ms. Northy's question, Mr. Irvin is also here with some information about the conservation easement in case I wasn't accurate with anything I described. Is there anything you want to add to that, Clay?
Good afternoon, Clay Irvin, Director of Growth and Resource Management. Yeah, the conservation easement is part of what we're purchasing. As such, we would be honoring the conservation easement because it was put in as part of mitigations for the Plantation Oaks project. So we would assume the management requirements of that conservation easement. In regards to the path that has been identified as the true route of Old Kings Road, it actually goes in and out of that conservation easement. So there's portions of the updated alignment of Kings Highway that goes into the conservation easements and portions that come out as well.
So we're not necessarily following the road, we're purchasing an old road bed that we believe has some historic value, but we're not using that road bed
Correct.
for the trail.
Correct.
Would that be accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions that I or someone else here could potentially
Mr. Chair?
answer?
Pat Patterson.
Yes, Pat?
Yeah, the lady, the archaeologist there, I have a question regarding the road, the historic road.
Go on.
Yes, I'm still here.
I've done did some research, just trying to get some information on that road, and I came into quite a bit of information. Who actually constructed the road? Who actually built the road? Not had the idea to do it. I think that was the West Florida governor at the time, back in the 1700s or something. But who actually did the construction? I don't think Mr. Grant went out and with his wife's shovel and rake and started driving or building a road at that point.
No, but it was sponsored, I suppose you could say, by the British government. It was completed in 1774. I don't have specific information on exactly the people who were building it, but it was basically, the purpose of it was to connect St. Augustine to present-day New Smyrna.
I was wondering who it was at that time, because I'm getting that there was, whether it was the natives, Indians that were actually forced to do this, or there was it slaves that were brought in to do it, or what? I'm curious about that.
I'm sorry, our research actually didn't really get into too much detail on that, so I really only know so much about who commissioned it, basically, and when it was completed.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe this is a question for Donna. In doing some research on that parcel that is for sale, there's an parcel that's privately owned outside of Plantation Oaks.
Oops. So it's privately owned. So we'll eventually, our trail would go around it.
I did want to put it on record that that is in the rears for county taxes as well.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yes, we were aware of that. And I know there's also been some discussions potentially to reach out to that individual as well about potentially purchasing depending on the taxes. Yep.
It's a very small parcel, so.
One more question. Looking at this holistically, was there any consideration to look at the adjacent property that's south of the project?
I don't believe so. So this parcel was brought to us from Dream Green.
Understood.
The grants organization, as a property that was in short order going to be developed.
Right.
And so we contacted the developer about options that are available, but
I understand, and this other area is to be developed as well. I'm just wondering if the same situation doesn't present itself on the south side of this project, which would allow it potentially to get closer to Tomoka and extend this trail that we're proposing. It was also suggested in one of the letters that was sent to us, which I thought was a good idea. Is this the kind of discussion we would have at our listening session?
about whether or
About
not,
adjacent property, another phase, if you will?
I think that would be better served at a regular meeting.
Okay.
If someone wants to bring that idea to you at a listening session, by all means, hear them out. But for you all to have a conversation about whether something should be considered, I think it's a discussion between the members of the ECHO board.
But the ECHO board really takes proposals from the outside. We're not proposing projects on our own.
Understood.
How would that be? I mean, we can discuss it, but I'm not sure that means anything.
I don't know that I really have an answer for you on that.
Okay.
I have a question specifically on the letter from January 27, 2003. from the Florida Department of State when it talks about supplemental research and assessment, Old Kings Road and Frenchman's Field at Plantation Oaks, Volusia County, Florida. And I just want to put on the record that when I was council member, this was before us on several occasions, and I voted against the proposals at the time to develop that. So it feels to me almost like we are being asked to go back and clean up a mess that was made by an earlier council. That's just for my opinion. So it says our office concurs with the recommendations of South Arc in conjunction with Thomas Schofield of Volusia County Planning that the following steps be taken to ensure the protection of the Old Kings Road site. And it's the 0255 parcel, and it lists 1, 2, 3 different I don't know if there were requirements or suggestions or considered recommendations, but it appears to me that we had an opportunity in 2003 to protect this site without expenditure of any dollars by the county as part of an agreement with the developer. Am I reading this incorrectly? And if we obviously didn't do that, and I'm curious as to why we didn't do that. Do you have any? I don't.
I don't. I was in the manager's office at that time, but I was not involved in historic preservation at that point.
Because it says the road alignment center line will be surveyed into the property maps, which apparently wasn't done. And then when the alignment can be identified within the residential portions of the property, new streets will approximately follow the original alignment with appropriate signage and names indicating the connection to the historic corridor. I don't know that that's been done. And then it talks about a golf course portion of the project's south end. Intact segments of the road may be preserved with appropriate signage indicating their history. This isn't, we're not talking about any property in the golf course portion.
We are not.
Okay, and so we don't know whether that was even done as part of the agreement in 2003. Clay, I was on the council, but I don't remember.
Again, those were all conditions that carried first with the original 1986 National Gardens Development of Regional Impact. Development of Regional Impact was something that was created by Governor Graham and then the legislature back then for projects that had countywide and extra county impact. And in it, they put in specific conditions for future development. And part of the National Gardens was that there was a considerable amount of historical and archaeological resources in this area. And they basically said that every time you went forward and before you initiated any kind of development, you had to make sure you did a study. Hence, we have the South Arc analysis that was done back in the early 2000s as part of the planned unit development rezoning that was requested for the Plantation Oaks project. That South Arc project analysis was relatively inconclusive in regards to the specific locations and generally followed what you see in the current files about what the Old Kings Road was. When the developer would come in to develop this piece of land, that's when he would have to go through, do the detailed analysis, and would have to live up to the obligations that you just talked about. The portions to the south that Mr. Surratt was talking about was part of the golf course project that was included in with this planned unit development. The entire project now, all of Plantation Oaks, is now under the jurisdiction of the city of Ormond Beach. It's been annexed, and with it carried over many of those requirements from that PUD as well as the DRI. So as they go forward with future developments to the southern portion of the Plantation Oaks Boulevard, they will have to follow those conditions as well. So what we're saying here is that with this particular piece, could it be developed for 76 lots and honor those requirements that were established as part of the PUD? Yes, they could have. Right now, it's in a conceptual plan in the PUD. The final detailed layout of the road, stormwater, et cetera, would dictate what would happen then. Does that help out?
Yeah, a little bit.
Does for me.
I have
Clay, I'm sorry.
I pulled the same letter that Pat just talked about. And when the Department of State's letter says the coquina chimney present on the site will be preserved with appropriate signage, and it continues on about that. I still don't understand how they got around that.
Well, actually, the developer went out there and secured some of this stuff already. In other words, there was some, the chimney, and I believe the foundation was also, and they've gone in and secured them. They're required to put in signage. They're put in some of the signage right now. So, I mean,
So what does securing mean? Because if it's now planned for 76 homes to be built there, how can that be secured?
Because just because you're developing it doesn't mean you can't leave that as an out parcel or protect it with a conservation easement or a preservation easement.
I was just going to ask, this was actually, when you mentioned National Gardens DRI, Plantation Oaks was only a portion
Yes.
of that DRI. Do you know these issues that we're dealing with now as a part of this application, in the other parts of National Gardens DRI, were we able to preserve either through the development process or?
There was multiple tracks that were done by that. First of all, there's the standard protections that you have through development where wetlands, floodplains, et cetera, are protected. In addition, what has occurred specifically with the National Gardens, the property owner working with Volusia County, the state of Florida, and the Trust for Public Lands, actually there's a lot of land on the east side of Old Dixie that was identified for development as part of this National Gardens DRI. They created the Volusia Land Trust, the Volt Tracts. And basically it was land that this developer put into this Volt Trust to allow for the Trust for Public Lands, the county, the state to negotiate so that way it could be acquired. And that's how we were able to get many of the areas that are Beulah Creek State Park and some of the other areas. So yes, there was two different functions. There was a regulatory method of doing protection of wetlands, archaeological, historical, and floodplain resources, as well as outright purchases of larger areas that provide for a state park system.
I thought that, and I thought that was important for people to realize in terms of the history of not just this parcel and the development, but the area. Mm-hmm. A lot of what many of us enjoy today started way back then.
1986 was one of the first developments of regional impacts in the state.
I have another, not for Clay, I have a question, I guess, for Donna. And I'm sorry, but it's back on the financing. I had this all tabbed out.
Can you change the slides again to the last, please?
It's just, I'm looking at the interoffice memorandum that came from Ryan on finance director on the check from Halifax Plantation for $234,647.55. And it says from Halifax Plantation section so-and-so to the County of Volusia for use with county park improvements and maintenance. Does acquisition fall into that? Is there legal ground to use that for acquisition, or is that just for?
Yes, ma'am. We've looked at it. So that was a reimbursement for what they otherwise got, the impact fee credits towards the recreational that's not going to be made now. So yes, we've looked at that and believe it can be used for acquisition.
For acquisition.
Yes, ma'am.
Legal's okay with
yes,
that?
Yes,
ma'am. The path or the trail, is that going to be ADA, meet ADA?
Tim, why don't you come up?
Good afternoon, Tim Bailey, Parks, Recreation, and Culture Director. So how that path is going to be constructed, it's 4 feet wide, natural turf, right? Where we're not putting concrete in, asphalt, or anything that would disturb the ground, right? We're staying outside of that conservation area because I think all that area is an NVRA. So we're staying out of that. The only area that would be like sidewalk, right, would be right where the Halifax Plantation entrance is. That's in the right of way where we had to skirt up to just to the west side of Old Dixie Highway in the right of way to align that trail to get up to Ormond Park.
So just a portion of it.
Right. It's what we're building is a natural path in the woods. And then again, it connects up to then the Bulow Creek State Park, which is also a natural path in the woods. It would not be hard pack. It would, whatever the natural terrain that we come across, could be soft sand, could be hard pack sand. So whatever is there is what we're going to be using. So if you're looking at the mountain bike question, mountain bikers like a thin, hard packed, rolly trail. This will be whatever's there. Could be soft sand. It'll be 4 feet wide. So it'll be not like your traditional mountain bike trail. Could a bicyclist, access it? Sure. I wouldn't think that they want to, this wouldn't be their showcase mountain bike trail though.
No.
Right.
Good.
Yeah. Did that answer your question?
Tim, I just got to tell you, why 4 foot and not 5 foot? Sidewalks now are being built 5 foot. And
well, we're
people
not
are-
dead set
people are a
on
little
4
bit
feet.
bigger
What
than
we were talking about is 2
True.
by 2, right?
Yeah, but-
Having someone walk 2 by 2.
some
If
people are,
if 5 by 5 or 5 feet wide is more comfortable for 2 by 2, we can do that. What we pledge though is we're going around trees.
right.
We're not planning on knocking down any historic trees or any specimen trees. We have the ability to go around, right? We're not getting into the conservation easement. We're staying away from the gopher tortoises. 25 feet is where we're looking to not impact the gophers that are out there. There's a few out there. So we're trying to follow all those guidelines to make sure we're building a responsible natural path to get folks from Plantation Oaks to Ormond and Bulow Creek. Good. Anything else?
Yeah, is it necessary to put that portable restroom in there since there's restrooms up at James Ormond?
If we don't, we're going to have some problems.
I think you're gonna have some problems with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's an, I guess we can make an argument to a composting setup, but that's not a part of our budget currently right now. It would be a portalet, but as we move through time, if I have problems, sometimes like for instance, Spruce Creek Park, they tip over that portalet sometimes, right? So, we might have to wrestle with that a little bit to build a structure around it. Maybe we'll entertain a composting toilet, but I think if we don't do that, you're going to have people doing it anyway. So I think it's responsible to have it there.
Okay, if the board does not have any more questions, I would like to give the audience an opportunity to speak and move public participation up until this point now. I guess one thing I'd like to ask is, I know there's an awful lot of people that would like to speak. I'd like to just take a little poll or tally here. I mean, would all in favor stand up and all opposed stand up at different times? That might save us from having to hear from everybody, but everyone that would like to speak is certainly welcome to. So I would just like to say, anyone in the audience that is for the project, would you please rise? And for the record, I'd like the board to recognize how many people. I'd say it's a large number of people in the room. So thank you very much. If there's anyone opposed, would you? Really? No one opposed? Okay. Well, with that, I'd like to ask you to please keep the comments brief because it could be a long afternoon. The first person on our request to speak is Corey Trusty.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name's Corey. My address is 46 High Ridge Road. This project may not seem to directly benefit road cyclists. However, I would argue that maintaining the natural essence of the property would benefit them by providing cooling shade and reduce traffic compared to what a residential development would. West Volusia has the Spring to Spring Trail for bike enthusiasts and other natural areas for biking. The Loop is the only natural area for road cycling enthusiasts in East Volusia. During the pandemic, one of the few industries to thrive is the biking industry. People want to get out and bike more and more, including in Volusia. There are multiple clubs that bike the Loop weekly. Volusia has a disappointing record on bike and pedestrian industries. Our own sheriff has been struck twice while biking in East Volusia. In spite of the dangers, people continue to ride the Loop, but now Volusia County has a tangible way to make biking safer for residents, or at least maintain the safety. By purchasing this property, the county can prevent further housing development, associated car traffic, and flooding. Not only would you be preserving a beautiful, shady, natural, historic area, but you would be helping to maintain the current safety level or potentially improve safety for recreational road bike enthusiasts along this roadway. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person to speak will be Karen Clark, and following her will be Rebecca Chaffee.
Hello, Karen Clark. I live in Glenwood, and we're over here going to be supporting the other end because recreation places is a necessity. I was in the Department of Recreation up in New York City, and they were always trying to catch tracks just to have, because the more people coming in, the more space they need to recreate. And since the county has done all this research and the Green organization did all the research, you have it. Please say yes to this.
Thank you. Rebecca Chaffee.
Hello. I had a longer speech, but I'll just shorten it. And basically, Dream Green Volusia began the campaign to garner support for the purchase. But what was unexpected was the sheer amount of support that we received. I think the residents here in Volusia County have spoken loud and clear on what we want. We have over 69,000 people that have signed an online petition through change.org for this purchase. And over $19,000 has been donated by residents to help contribute to the purchase. And approximately 500 yard signs have been distributed, and approximately 100 bumper stickers that people have requested to show their support. Residents have written to local newspapers. Journalists have interviewed Suzanne, the founder, numerous times. We see this weekly. So I would say that if this was not approved, it would definitely be a breach in what the public wants to get approved by ECHO. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Susan Schreiber, and following her will be Joe Will.
Hi, I'm the founder of Dream Green Volusia. I'm extremely honored to be here to advocate for the Ormond Scenic Loop and Trail. As Ms. Northey noted, this has been going on for quite a long time. I would say over 20 years, the public has been advocating and wanting the Ormond Scenic Loop and Trail preserved. We went through to get it determined a byway many years ago, and I want to thank the organization that did that, which were the advocates back in around 2004. There's a lot to be said here today in such a limited time, but I want to express that in over 20 years, you need to think about this. The people have been working for this for over 20 years. Some of them are in their 80s now. They've reached out to me. A 17-year-old started this petition. Look at the age range. You need to understand that the public wants this. As Becca just said, 500 yard signs, and my inbox is full right now. I cannot get the yard signs fast enough. We're not only delivering them, we're holding public pickups. And yes, we have raised over $19,000. And so it's clear, because there's a lot that's not. We have ourselves turned over the money that we raised, and it was way more than $2,500 to North Florida Land Trust. And I want to thank them for partnering with us. because I am a new nonprofit, although I've been around for more than 2 years advocating for environmental issues, and now history on top of it. The last thing that I would really want you to understand is I believe that the public voices matter, but somehow they have not been recognized, right? In over 20 years. So I'm asking you to listen to the public voices. And yes, I do understand. I understand what I'm asking you. I understand it all. To the gentleman that said something about a different portion of land being turned into a bike path, there is an area that is a significant swath of land that there are many private owners, and every single owner would have to be consulted. It is further to the south and on the west side of the road. I'm very familiar with the area and no one has ever brought that up, but it is many individual parcels within a very large parcel. That would be very difficult to turn into conservation land. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Joe Will. I live at 78 Emerald Oaks Lane in Ormond Beach. A couple observations I'd like to make very, very quickly. I'd like to wish Miss Northey a happy birthday.
Thank you.
And say, damn, Patterson, you're still alive. And
Thanks, Joe.
yeah.
We grew up in the same neighborhood years ago. So.
We did. We've seen destruction by developers, haven't we? Yes, Miss Northey, you are being asked to clean up a mess in the smallest of ways, to clean up a mess that's been hanging around here for 35 years or more. I can't do math. I wanted to speak way back when it was being considered as a development along this cherished road, but I didn't know. I didn't know that it was time to come and speak, to make it known to the council, and neither did the council know. I don't have any bad feelings toward council members who did this, but I think virtually every council member who has been involved in all of this since the beginning of time has had a conversation with me, a painful conversation with me, in which they have said, yeah, I wish I hadn't done that. If I had known, I wouldn't have done it. That to me is very important, and I think it's a consideration that ought to go forward today. I think the current council will feel very much the same way. I have some experience with public service in Volusia County, making decisions, difficult ones, unpopular ones. I have some experience being on advisory boards for the council. I'd like to offer you something that I found helpful as I went my way. I looked for the right thing to do, and then I figured out how I could do it. I think taking the next right step is always the right thing for all of us to do, and I think each and every one of you already knows what that next step is, and I hope to God you'll give it to the council and give them just a little bit of a chance, or give them a chance to make up a little bit of what's done, because it makes a statement. It makes a statement for everybody in the community that we can recognize and appreciate the things that are important. This was important then, it remains important now. I can tell you, I've lived on the Loop or real close to it for the last 40 years. I know the Loop as well as anybody does. I go there today almost every day to take pictures. I fancy myself in my retirement as a nature and wildlife photographer, and I'm out there every day. I was going to prepare a video for you, but damn, it's hard to use that phone. I'll get some help from my kids and I'll send you a video by email. Skipping ahead, I know the impact of what's happening out there with the increase in traffic because of the developments. It's not just the houses, it's the dump trucks, the school buses, the delivery vehicles, the plumbers, the electricians, the yard guys, service people that are out there on all of the time. Putting up signs doesn't do it. We really need you to make that statement, and we need you to pick up the ball and run with it. We need for you to lead. Here, just 1 second. I have a little bile in my throat. Give me 10 seconds. The notion of buying the land from the developer who contributed to the problem causes bile to rise right here. I have a hard time with it. I'm going to urge you, swallow hard, and please, by all means, get it done. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, he is a fabulous photographer. Your work is incredible.
Thank you very much, Pat. I was also going to suggest to you that next time you're going to be hearing about the Sunshine Law, that you hit your 3-minute button.
That may have been a joke. At any rate, our next speaker is Donna Craig, and following Donna will be Missy Herrera.
I'm Donna Craig. I live in Ormond Beach, and actually in Ormond by the Sea, county property. I didn't prepare anything today, but I do want to let you know that I'm in favor of this purchase. I moved to this area when I was 2 years old. That's a long time ago. It remains to me my happy place. When I need a little lift, I go drive the loop. It's important for our identity. A lot of people come to this area, and one of their favorite things to do is to go drive the loop. I really think that it's a valuable piece of property that we need to maintain. So let's make this happen. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Missy Herrera. I live in Ormond Beach, and I, like many people who have spoke today, just wanted to express my support. And like the gentleman just stated, a lot of us don't know this is happening, right? And so we elect our officials to be here to keep an eye out and keep us informed. And it's our job as citizens to do that. But at the same time, we're all sitting here because a 17-year-old took the initiative to do something. We care about our environment, we care about our community, but we're busy, we're working, we're taking care of our families, and it's not an excuse. But my hope is that we can try to drive some transparency, because I know people in community really care. And these people with Dream Green, and they do all this for free. No one's paying. And, you know, I appreciate everything they've done, and I just encourage you guys to give this some serious thought. Thanks.
Okay, our next speaker will be Tom Roberts, followed by Emmy Papetti.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. I live in DeLand, and I am the current chair of the Historic Preservation Board. We voted unanimously to support this project. I'm also a senior scientist with eSciences for my regular work, and I've got over 30 years of experience. This is a very unique and special piece of property. This site transitions from bottomwood hardwood to mesocamic to mixed hardwood oak, pine oak habitat where all the gopher tortoises are located. So you're not only having an opportunity to preserve historic Old Kings Road, which is eligible for listing for the National Register if you look at the end of the search report, but you're preserving a special piece of environmental property. You're going to create a unique opportunity for outdoors. And I think, as you heard, there are many people from a cultural side that have created some beautiful artwork from the loop. And you have a chance to set all this aside in one piece of property. It's 36 acres. And hopefully you'll do that. There's a lot of history to National Gardens. I noticed you mentioned that as part of the original DRI, and that was a historically Black community, an agricultural community. They had their own school there at one time. Some of that history needs to be presented in the interpretation on this parcel. So I just want to encourage you, hopefully, to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Emmy Papetti. I was born and raised in Volusia County, and I currently live in Ormond Beach. As a material culture scholar, I'm acutely aware of the ways in which landscapes and environmental resources impact the shared lives and experience of the people in a region. The significance of the disputed 36 acres far surpasses the obvious archaeological consequences of an old coquina chimney and a farmstead ruin. Indeed, the natural landscape itself functions as a connecting point between ancient, colonial, and contemporary people. Before our county was a county, what began as an indigenous footpath became a Spanish road. Recent investigations show how British colonizers used this route, which cuts through the disputed property, to create Northeast Florida's first highway. That is to say, people have traversed this same land against the backdrop of an irreplaceable coastal ecosystem for hundreds of years. Today, these roads continue to be traveled. Locals and visitors alike enjoy over 30 miles of scenery. Fishing, hiking, biking, and kayaking are common activities, but the route's reputation shines as the local pilgrimage for motor vehicles. Cars and motorcycle tourism is central to our current local and economy and identity. We allow beach driving to honor this heritage, though it reflects a relatively new tradition. We've only been playing with cars for a little over 100 years, but we've been traveling through this stretch of our county for much longer. A brief visit to the disputed area is explanation enough. Nothing compares to the joy of leisurely travel through unspoiled nature. The loop offers passage through open sparkling water and tunnels of green. The disputed Plantation Oak property is partially named for the live oaks whose outstretched limbs, delicate with Spanish moss, create the canopy of this long enjoyed road. People have traveled these stretches as water on a prayer wheel. Our attention to this place, to the history of movement and nature, feeds and connects us over the distance of centuries. It's our responsibility to preserve this area, to keep it as fully intact as possible, so future generations will be able to move through it with us. We choose what becomes historic. Our history becomes shaped by what lasts, and what lasts are the things we protect. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Our next speaker will be Jeff Bauer, our county chairperson.
Thank you. I wasn't going to introduce myself like that because I'm here representing my family. I didn't really understand how emotional this would be. Pat, you and Dwight Lewis voted against this years ago. You did the right thing then, and I'm asking you to do the right thing again today. You and I stood together in Deltona just a few weeks ago and spoke against overdevelopment, and we lost that vote by one vote. I'm going back in 2 weeks. I hope to see you there. They respect you there. They respect you here as well. I have not been in a county meeting where we had no opposition in the audience, where we had this many people to speak and nobody wanted to speak against it. When I ran for this office, the first thing I heard when we knocked on hundreds and hundreds of doors, what is your concerns? The first thing everybody said was overdevelopment. You have a chance to stop that here. There's a lot of land we're saving in Volusia County. There's so many properties that are worthy that we could be talking about today, but this is the one that we're talking about, and I'm asking you to vote for it, not because it's more important than anything else, but because it's here today. We have an opportunity. We have a brief opportunity. It's our second opportunity, and it's going to be the last. So you can save this section of the loop. For me and my family, I have children. They all like to ride bikes. I don't want them to ride on the loop. I rode there as a kid. It's too busy now. I went up there through this process and walked all of this property. I watched a man and a woman pulling a little cart with a baby in it, bicycling down that road. It scared me to death because when they got to the entrance there at Halifax Plantation, or Halifax Oaks, there's two blind turns and they couldn't see the cars coming. And I stood there and hollered at them so that they would know that there's cars coming behind them. It's not safe. Queen of the paths, give us a bicycle path here. I'm putting it on your shoulders. I know that's not fair.
No, that is not.
So thank you. And thank you for serving and thank all of you. I'm thankful. Thank you.
Okay, and we have one more member of the public to participate, Mr. Robert Allen.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me time, and trust I'll be short and sweet. Just to thank you for the service, thank you for the consideration, and ask yourself the question, if not now, when? That you've heard from the public, you've heard about the 69,000 plus, and this is very, very quickly. So truly thank you, consider it, and make the right decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think you all are probably going to discuss now. I did speak with Mr. Brown, and based on my confusion and how I presented and how it was in the application, if you decide to move forward, we would suggest a motion that required a match of 249,647, which equals the match that's intact right now. I understand from Ms. Scheiber's comments that there might be more. However, we would adjust that on the DCE side. So it would be a match of 249,647. And then the direct county expenditure would be 488,706, and that would be a maximum of that amount. So what we would pay back would be the 488,706 with any other additional funds, whether through grants, whether it's through Trust for Public Lands and Dream Green, however that came to be. So that would be the total of what I was saying was needed, was the 738,353, but breaking it into those two components. Did that make sense? Better sense than what I presented in the first place?
Yes, it does.
Okay, with that, I would like to make a motion that the board consider purchase of the Plantation Oaks property with a $249,647 match, and for the council to consider $488,706 expenditure.
Direct county expenditure.
Direct county expenditure.
Mr. Chair, if you would like to make that motion, I need you to pass the gavel to the vice chair.
Well, I'll do that.
Jeez. Okay, there
And
is.
Mr. Chair, for the record, just to make it clear, the motion is for a recommendation of approval for the council to purchase the loop project with a matching contribution grant for the historical eco grant exceptional application in the matching grant amount of $249,647. And then a recommendation that council approve the remaining through a direct expenditure approval by council of up to $488,706, of which, if there are any additional funds provided, the grants will be paid back out of that to that 488K approximately. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I second the motion.
Okay, it's motion's been made by the chair, seconded by Jack Surratt. And can I now give him back this for discussion, or do I need to, who does the discussion part of it? Because there's good,
You can give it back to him.
thank you.
With that, we'd like to open it to discussion for the board.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Patterson.
I am about conservation, but when I see the defend the loop signs out here, I don't know how, when I went over there to look at the property, I almost got ran over out there. So I don't know how the purchase of this land is going to slow the traffic down over in that area. But that's just my feeling about it, the safety issue over there. But I have some other issues, but for the most part, I do have some concerns.
Ms. Morrissey.
I would just like to say that I do agree that the acquisition of the property won't change the conditions on the loop. And as someone who, my husband and I had our courtship on the loop, we are avid cyclists, so I hold it very dear to me. However, I think the historical information that has been presented in the grant application is so significant and compelling that it really, I look to you, Mr. Bailey, because I heard some comments today, and I think Mr. Roberts also brought up things that many people are totally unaware of how that area used to be. And I would just request that if this moves forward, and I'm prepared to support it, that in your efforts to provide the path and whatnot, that you really take that extra effort to not just put signage about Old Kings Road, because the area really deserves much more recognition. And I'd like to see the historical aspect of the whole area recognized, and here's an opportunity to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Hall?
Sure. First of all, I want to commend the staff. I think you did an excellent job putting the proposal together on such short notice. And I really did enjoy reading about the history of Old Kings Road. And I think the historical aspects of the property, yes, should be preserved. They should have been preserved many, many years ago. And having the opportunity to correct this wrong, as some people have said, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I'm a supporter of the project without question. My only reservation about any of this is that it's not bigger. That the area, I know we need to concentrate on this specific subject and we deal with this project alone, but I believe there's far more significance to the area, not just Old Kings Road, but this entire between Bulow and Tomoka. There probably needs to be a lot of other preservation in place, and that hopefully we will be dealing with that in the future at additional phases or completely new projects.
I'm just very pleased to see this application come before us. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some of the same concerns that I heard from my former colleague, Mr. Patterson, to the extent that there is no loss of homes here. There's not any change to the traffic pattern. Well, there might be a change to the traffic pattern, and maybe it'll go out to US 1 because the houses will be further in. But that is a real concern to me, that we did not kill those building permits when it was not a transfer of development rights, in the sense that you give us this and we're still, not us, Ormond Beach will still be allowing those 78 homes. So there's no loss of density and no change to the traffic. However, when we started this process, I was accused of a lot of things about my position, and I was very clear on my position that I mean, I did not share it with the press. I did not talk about it. I just said, please bring a process back. In light of the fact that the voters had just supported Volusia Forever and Echo, it was critically important that we have a transparent process that people could follow. And Mr. Auld is correct. This particular document, congratulations to staff, because you all did a really fine job of putting it together and making it hard to say no. So not that I want to say no, because I said no. I said no a couple times ago, and I'm not gonna go there again. But my friend Joe Will said swallow hard, to the extent that it doesn't kill the 78 homes and it doesn't change the traffic pattern. But as Ms. Morrissey said, the historic value, that was well documented in this. If you all haven't read that report that was presented as part of the agenda packet, it was an excellent report. So I'm going to swallow hard, and I'm going to support this and hope that if we move in this direction again, that we look at how we can really address the traffic concerns on the loop, because those are significant.
Well, thank you from hearing from everyone. Obviously, I support the project. I don't like to say too many things, but I think it's very important that we preserve our outdoor space, our green space, our history. And as a native Floridian third generation, we've lost so much of that. And this is one small opportunity we have to preserve part of our history and our green space. And then the fact that this can be used for exercise. Kids can get some exercise, fresh air, adults too. I mean, I see so many positives with this. In the future, maybe there can be some changes in traffic patterns and things like that. But this is a great move to preserve the history of Florida and Volusia County. Should we take a vote on this?
Mr. Chair, I have just one more comment.
Oh, okay.
My second bite at the apple that I can take. I would encourage some traffic enforcement over there, and that concerns me. But when I get into the historical perspective of the old Dixie and the properties out there, there's some real bright stuff that happened, but there's some dark side of the history. And I wish that gets out as this moves forward so that people really know what was happening. There was a civil war that came out. There's some things about the Ormond family that people just don't know about. I'm not trying to take away from them, but I think if you're gonna not repeat history, you've got to know what the good side was and what the bad side. So I hope that as this goes forward, that information does get out. There's a marker out there that really I took a picture of when I was visiting over there, and it doesn't really let you know really what happened at that time. So thank you.
Okay, with that, Jeffrey? Oh, David, you're right. I'm sorry. I totally forgot about our virtual members. Would you like to comment, David?
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you to all the speakers there today and the staff. They did an outstanding job. And yes, the loop makes an impact on everyone, from my family to visitors to our great area. There are some questions about everything. I know my other members there brought them up. I'm concerned about a few things too, but you know, if we can preserve this one slice and move on from there, that would be outstanding. And I'd like to thank the people that signed the signatures and the people that put up the signs. I mean, that movement right there was started by just a few people. So just think of what can be done with a few people starting a movement. You know, let's be leaders here, and I would, you know, I'm for it. Let's clean up this mess and move on. But let's also look back and see how we can prevent it from happening again, and see how we can expand this to be, you know, better in the future. And I'm looking forward to these little staff meetings, the sessions, to listening to the people, what they have to say, and how maybe we can expand it elsewhere in the county as well. So well done, staff. Looking forward to listening sessions, and thank you for your understanding for me not being there today.
Thank you. Well, with that,
Reggie Santilli is also
Reggie
online.
on?
Yes.
Reggie, speak. Oh, there she is.
I am also an advocate for this project. Staff did a good job in submitting the application. I think it's very important that we preserve our historic environmental areas, and I would like to see more projects like this throughout our county.
Is that it, Reggie? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I guess with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve.
We had a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve.
There was a motion and a second, so we just need a vote, Mr. Chair.
I made the motion.
We just need a vote, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman.
Yeah, but so we just need a vote. Let's just vote. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That includes our virtual members.
Aye, aye.
Yes, aye.
Okay, great. Jill, did you get all that? Okay, thank you. Motion approved.
I just want to respond to some of the concerns about the historic part of this in terms of documentation. Tim Bailey and his staff do an incredible job of documenting our historic resources. And he's got a historian, boy, does he take his time, but he does a fabulous job. So we commit to doing the best we can, and we will surely try and tell the whole story. Thank you.
And just think about 5 foot.
Okay, and we'll think about the 5 foot too.
Thank you.
Okay, with that all done, we're now moving forward to our time extension request. And we'll be having a couple of presentations. Okay, I think the room's cleared for you, Teresa.
Good afternoon, Teresa Brooks, City of DeLand. I'm here today requesting a 3-month extension on the Sperling Sports Complex expansion until September 25th, 2021. We had the final walkthrough with the contractor on March the 23rd. He has completed the punch list items. The extension is basically to get our CO, which we expect in the next week or two, and of course the final paperwork, retainage, and staff having the site visit and approval.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the extension.
I beg your pardon?
I'll move the approval of the extension for Sperling, right?
Second.
Second.
I have a question.
Oh, a question?
I just want to ensure that the signage is also included in that, so there's not that necessary step at the end of the project. I wondered if you could.
This is another phase 2 out at Sperling Sports Complex, and I got an exception to the sign because there's already a permanent sign out there at Sperling Complex. And what I did is I had an additional plate made for that sign to include both of the years of ECHO funding that was done. So there will be no delay. It's already been received, and he may have installed it already. It wasn't installed when we did the walkthrough on the 23rd, but we have it in hand. Any other questions?
Okay, we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. The next presentation will be for the Y, Mr. Chris Selkop.
Good evening. Yes, Chris Sokop. I'm the CEO and president for the Volusia County YMCA. Good evening. Yeah, we have 2 requests for extensions. One is for the playground for the DeLand YMCA. Before COVID hit, we were in the process of doing a capital campaign for that branch. And due to COVID, we had to put that on hold. So I don't have a date of completion or start construction with the playground as of this point, unfortunately, because our committee, Earl Carver, Ben Flowers, Rosemary Grable, they want to see kind of how long it takes for this COVID to get out before they go out to the community to start raising money for the renovation of that facility, which the playground would have been a part of it. So I guess an extension, and I don't know what the max extension request is, a year, I guess, is what we're asking for the DeLand YMCA.
Well,
Can you remind me, what is the, or when was the grant initially approved?
I'm not too sure. Before my tenure, I want to say 2018, was it?
It's a 2018 grant.
Right.
It's a 2018, and there's been no fundraising for it yet?
Again, that was before my tenure. I don't know what happened with that application process and everything that happened there. I just picked it up when I came on board in January 2019.
So is this the first extension request?
I have a question. If we can't get to a completion date, a target completion date and you're asking for an additional extension, shouldn't we just start over? I mean, I'm wondering what we're doing here. It's almost like I think we should probably cancel this project until you're in fact prepared. We should have funding, we're required to have funding in place. And you're saying you're trying to get to fundraising. So it seems we're in the awkward position of saying, maybe next time.
I have to chime in on this. I went back to the original application and it was in 2018. I mean, according to the original application, you had matching funds and now you're fundraising 4 years later. And this project was behind schedule before we even heard the word COVID. This project was supposed to be finished in August of 2018. I have a real problem with continuing it.
Understandable. No, I get it. Trust me,
we had an application with matched grants, plans, everything. In this, there's a line like, work on the playground will begin immediately upon release of grant funds. It should take 30 to 60 days. Finished open to the public by the fall of 2018. That's listed in this grant application twice. I just have a real problem. I think you should really withdraw this application and start over.
Mr. Chairman, is that for both of them, both DeLand and Norman? That
Yes,
you're
Pat.
recommending? Okay.
Can we separate these two and talk about them separately? Because I know the Ormond project.
Ormond's a little different.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm aware of that. So I would ask that these are two separate grant applications, and that I would prefer that we talk about them separately and make separate motions on them.
Okay,
I think that's agreeable.
that's fine.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Mr. Chairman, do you want a motion to deny the request for the time extension on the 1810 YMCA DeLand Playground?
Yes.
I will make that motion.
I will second that motion.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now we'll discuss the Ormond Beach.
Understandable. Yeah, I get it. So the second one, the Ormond YMCA, is a little farther along. Let me explain what happened in that one. That one actually go under permitting to the city in the next 2 weeks or so for that project. We start construction third, fourth quarter for phase one. And the playground itself has been adjusted due to the fact that it was placed in a location that Brooks Rehab, Halifax Hospital was going to do a partnership. In the past year, they have pulled out of that partnership, which actually enables us to expand the square footage of that playground than what it originally had in the plans. So we're able to actually make it a little bit bigger than what we plan to do. But again, that hopefully will get done and get going sometime in the third, fourth quarter of this year. So it's much farther along than what the DeLand project was.
Well, my question is, do you have the match for this?
Yeah, that was my question.
Yes, we do have the match for it.
And your splash park is open.
Well, right. So I believe I am correct that was two parts of that grant, was a splash park and the playground. So yes, the splash park is open and operating.
This is a very different situation than the DeLand situation, in my mind.
Right.
So when do you think the playground gets installed?
That's a very good question. We have to go back and work with the architect on the site plan in the city for submittal. But I finished construction, I don't know. But we should start this year. When we complete it, again, it could be fourth quarter. And the reason I say that is this. Part of the construction has to do with our summer camp. So the summer camp uses the gym, and the renovation encompasses the gym. So if I do the gym now, I don't have a place for my summer camp kids. I've been informed that a few schools in the area will not have summer camp, so we're including an influx of kids. So the point is the playground is tied in with the construction of phase one with the gym. So I need to push that back so I have a spot for the kids this summer. Does that make sense too? Is that understandable? So anyway, so that's the purpose. So I can't give exact data of construction with yet, but it will be done in phase one.
But this project has been going on since 2018.
Well, this one is a different grant, and I'm not too sure when it was put in. I'm thinking, was it 2018 or 19? 2018. Again, it was before my time. I know the Orman project's been going on for a while, from my understanding. That's been because I think there was an ECHO grant dealing with the pool on that project also.
There was.
Right.
It was a separate grant. I'm saying that project
But
has been going on
were
for a
all
while.
grants from ECHO.
Right.
This is, the splash park is
So the
part of
splash
this
park-
grant.
Right. The splash park is part of this grant, and that's already done.
Right. And you said you do have the monies for this playground. The issue is,
Has been changed.
and it conflicts with summer recreation in terms of start sooner than later.
Yes. Yes.
But it seems to me we need a specific date, that you think it can be completed. I mean, you're asking for an extension. I'm not comfortable with, you're not sure, I think we should have a plan in place where you say, I think I can get it done by January,
I do think I can get it done by January.
January.
How's that?
I'm glad.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I made that up.
Yeah. No, but I really do. When I look at the timeline, it should be done by January. Yes.
Because that gets you through the summer issue.
It does.
Right.
Exactly.
Explain to me the, let's see how I can put this. The importance. Does summer camp outweigh the project itself in your eyes as the person applying for this?
The summer camp is a very important program for the YMCA, but also for the community, because we have a lot of kids that need it. So the point I was making is that the basketball gym is our main area for summer camp. If I remove that, I have no place for the kids to spend the day. Well, they're all alternatives, but they're not best case. Like I could bus them to the Holly Hill Y. I really don't want to do that. Important, because if we don't, then we lose the funding for it. And plus, the Y needs a playground. Right now, the Orman Y has no playground on site. So this would benefit the YMCA and the kids in the community. So it's pretty important. But I have some moving pieces I'm trying to work around.
Well, the playground's outside. What does that have to do with keeping the kids inside for summer camp?
There's a licensing issue for space per square foot inside you have. You can't have the kids outside all day long. You got to have them inside in air conditioned space and other requirements like that. So and the reason it's connected is just because of construction reason and area. The playground is adjacent to the gym that's being worked on. So you can't have the construction going on and the kids in the playground at the same time also. So you can't like build a playground first and then do construction. It wouldn't work out well. It wouldn't be a good environment.
So do you have a site in?
Oh yeah, no, we know the site's selected. It's right to the left. If you're looking at the gym, right to the left. It's there. And fortunately, we can make it bigger than what was originally planned also, which we have to make adjustments to the plan, to what I've heard from staff.
So
Yes.
does that change the cost? And
No, not really. We can just spread the stuff out a little bit more so it's not so compact.
So Chris, this is just a comment. The YMCA countywide, but particularly Ormond Beach, has been a significant recipient of ECHO dollars. And we seem to have this problem with practically every project. I think you haven't yet completed the trail around the building yet, have you?
The trail around the building, that's a whole different, but
Yeah, but that's my concern.
Right.
I'll support based on the fact that the splash park is already open and you seem to have a plan for the playground, but man, y'all got to get your act together because this is not the first time.
If I may, I understand. Now, this is my second stint with this Y. The first time I was here up to 2011, I wrote 2 ECHO grants. one for the splash pad in Fort Towns in Deltona, and one for the one in DeLand. And they were done in a very expedient amount of time, and it was done to the letter of the grant, and we got them done quickly. I'm inheriting these two projects. All right, so I'm doing my best to get them done. I understand DeLand. Ormond, again, I inherited. The dog trail, I somewhat inherited also. I'm just trying to get these projects done and off the books. I understand the frustration from the committee. I get it. I do. This is my first time dealing with ECHO grants. I've done it 2 times before successfully. These projects I've inherited, I'm trying to get them done the best that I can with the economic environment that I'm also trying to deal with too. So hopefully the playground, Ormond, will get done this year. The land, I completely understand the situation there.
So you're comfortable with the January 2022 date?
Yeah, because that Y needs a playground. So it's actually good that you put my feet to the fire, because now I can go back to the board and say, this is what we're doing. Here's our priority. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that I'm saying it's going to be January.
Okay.
Are you discussing a January completion date?
I will do my best to get to that, because again, there's other moving pieces I need to get done with the construction that I have no complete control over. But my goal is to get done by, it also depends how long it takes for materials. I know in construction, I'm being told right now, and I just had this conversation with Bomar, they're backlogged in steel. They're backlogged in wood. So I don't know if the playground companies having the same problem with their supplies. So I'll try to get done by January, but there may be some unforeseen stuff that I have no control over.
I just think we need something more solid in writing, some kind of like schedule or something. But just to say, I think it'll be done by January.
And it shouldn't be just a goal. I mean, it should be something where we lock down the specifics. I can't support an open-ended extension, which is what you're really asking for.
Can we request that they bring that to us in May when we meet? Instead of killing the project, can we just ask them to come back in May with?
Does that work for staff? Is that okay with? Yeah, I think that's really the way to go.
I think that will be fine, but I also just wanted to bring to the record that for 1811, the YMCA Ormond Beach Playground and Splash Park project, just so you guys know, the grant award was $237,900. To date, we have reimbursed strictly for the splash pad, and that is at $120,735. That has a remaining balance of $117,165 for the playground. So I just wanted you guys to know financially where the project stood today. Okay.
And that has how much of a match left that is it
Yes. So as of now, they have matched 1-to-1 for the splash pad.
Okay.
They still would have to provide the match for the playground.
Sir, you said you do have that funding match set aside. Is that correct?
That's correct. We do have the
So
money in the bank.
it kind of sounded to me like the project is still in the planning phase for the playground. You mentioned, I wonder if you could clarify the location, tree removal, et cetera, that would take place.
So the site example, let's say the site was planned for, I don't know off the top of my head, but let's say it's planned for 4,000 square feet. All right. We now have probably about 6,000 square feet or more that we can expand the playground with. So the scope of it's changed a little bit. The site is all dirt. So there is no trees removal and everything. But the problem is the site's right next to the basketball gym. That's construction will be starting this year on. So that would affect a little bit of the access to that playground because of the construction going on with the basketball gym and some walls being removed and things of that nature. So that's why it's a little bit of a fluid situation with that construction.
So when is the basketball gym supposed to be completed?
That goes to the city for plan submittal the next week or two. And then that will hopefully be the third quarter of this year at least.
After summer rec.
Exactly.
Yeah, but so if you start remodeling a gym in October, how are we going to have a playground finished that's adjacent to it by January?
We can do both at the same time. The gym isn't a huge, it's not a huge project. We have to knock out some block, put some windows in. That's off the exterior. The rest of it is interior. Sidewalk gets removed. So it's not a massive undertaking. Just a lot of equipment has to be out there while it's going on. Again, my goal is to have the playground up and going by January. I want to have the playground, trust me. It's not like I'm not dodging it, because those kids right now are playing in dirt, and I'd rather not have that happen. And if I have a playground for the summer, that's even better for my summer camp program. It's just a matter of, I have a few of the things at that site that we have to take care of and get some answers on.
Well, I think we all want to see the project completed. We all want to see the best thing for the youth of the community in our county. But on the other hand, just leaving open-ended things, I have a real problem with it, especially since it's been going on since 2018.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I like the suggestion that was made by one of the members, not acting on the request to extend 18-11 right now at this meeting, but rather instructing the applicant to come back at our May meeting with a much more specific schedule that gives us assurances that this extension gets the project done in a reasonable amount of time.
I'll second that if that's a motion.
That was a motion.
Well, the only thing I'd like to add to that is that I want to make sure the matching funds are really matching funds. I mean, they need to be in some kind of account that's not going to just get put away into someplace else, because obviously that's what happened to the rest of it. This match should still be in the bank. I mean, if it was truly a match, it was truly set aside, that money would be sitting in a bank account somewhere right now, and it's not.
But I didn't hear that money is the problem with this.
No, the money.
The match, do they have the match to do this?
The match is in a separate account. So that match has been allocated in a capital account that is set separate. The money is there for the match. The problem is more of the timing of the logistics to get the project done.
But as long as you can give us assurance that that money, the match money, is in a safe, secure place.
Yeah, we can get that staff and it can pass on. Yeah, the funding's there.
I guess I have one last comment and a question for you is just trying to understand the importance or the relevance of the summer camp with standing as it is, instead of making some exceptions and changes for this year to get the project completed. Can you let me understand why the decision was made like that in place of an alternative summer camp? You're saying you're using your gym for summer camp, and that's going to
correct
cause a problem with the project. So I'm wondering why an exception isn't in place.
We've talked about that internally. That still may happen. We talked about taking the kids to the Holly Hill Y, which is only a few miles away. We've tried to look for some other off-sites, churches, things of that nature. We haven't been successful, but we've talked about that and we're still looking at it. It's always better from a logistics standpoint to have childcare at your home site, your base site, because you also have the food program. So it's not only day camp, but you're also dealing with meals. So the school board provides meals 2 times a day. So you need to have the refrigerators, you need to have the kitchen facilities, you need to have something like that. But my point is this, just picking them up and moving them is not as simple as it sounds. So, and then if this year is going to be larger than usual, that adds some other logistics that we have to get around. All of our programs in the YMCA are, they're growing at a rate faster than we anticipated in the past four months. Our youth basketball was far exceeded last two years. Our soccer this past season far exceeded our budget and what we had in the past 2 years pre-COVID. Our spring break camp was larger than budget than what we anticipated. So our programming we're seeing growing. And then if you throw in the fact that we have a few school sites that decide not to do summer camp in the Ormond area, that odds are will just create a larger enrollment for us. It is, yeah. To a certain point, So example, if we have to cap it at, let's say, 150 kids or 200 kids. So we do have a capacity limit, but that's not really in this realm of consideration at this point for this group. Yeah.
Well, if there's no further comments, we have a motion and a second.
We do.
Vote?
Mhm.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair,
Vote passes. Yes,
Russ Brown, Assistant County Attorney. May I just make a comment since we've back to 2018-10 of the YMCA DeLand Playground for a point for consideration for discussion. Since effectively you denied the request for an extension, and I believe the current application expires in June, you're rescinding the grant of that, the grant of that application that the county council approved. You don't have to do it now because technically there's still time in the end of June if something were to occur. But I just am bringing it to the board's attention that effectively what you're doing, and at some point you need to take it up as to whether you're making a recommendation that the county council rescind the grant of the application in 2018. Just something for consideration and discussion if you want to. It's up to you.
well, we can discuss that if we'd like to rescind it. I mean, it doesn't sound like the applicant is going forward with it. So I mean, it's like, if the applicant is not moving forward, then why not go ahead and rescind it?
What the one?
Are we talking about two different projects?
I'm sorry, Jack. We jumped back to.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, Mr. Surratt. I didn't mean to, sorry to interrupt.
If I may, if our grant on 1810, the Land YMCA, that expires in June, correct?
That's what staff informed me.
Then my request is let it expire. And if I don't, Monty, or we don't start by June, we lose anyways, correct?
Technically you lose it. I'm not, that's what I'm saying to the board is that I'm not exactly certain that we would still need to ask the council to rescind it.
Right, but what I'm saying is can we wait June?
Yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier. Yes, sir. So we could come back in May, when you meet again, because like he's saying, he has more time technically that you've already granted him. So you don't have to do it now. And technically he's right. You don't have to, you could wait till June. It's the board's pleasure as to whether you want to go ahead and do it now. I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying it's something for the board to consider.
Well, we made a motion and approved a denial of an extension. I mean, that's action already taken.
But that would not take place until June.
Understood.
Grant runs through June.
Correct.
So if we just let it run its natural course, it will expire by itself in June.
At some point after that, we would still need to have a motion by the council to make a recommendation to the county council to formally rescind the grant of the application because the county council makes the final approval.
Well, we should be able to put that in the.
You could do that in July. You could do that in June. You could do that when, I just wanted to say effectively on the record what your motion to rescind his current request would do in the future. You could take it up now. You could take it up later. It's up to you.
Maybe we look at it in May when we talk about the other schedule. Put it on the agenda.
Mr. Chair,
this will be
I heard you call for a vote on it, but I didn't hear you call for a vote if anybody was opposed to 18-11.
Oh, that's true. What was anyone opposed?
I'm a no vote on that.
Because we jumped from 11 to 10, 10 to 11. As far as 1810, we're going to let that, the gentleman can come back to us in May with his update. If not, we'll be making recommendations then. On 18-11, I asked for a vote. All in favor? I just asked for a vote. We had ayes. If there was a negative, should we re-vote this? Would that be? Should we call for another
Mr.
vote?
Patterson just wanted to make sure his vote was on the
Yeah,
record.
I
Oh.
didn't call for it if anybody was opposed to it, and I would have been a no vote.
Okay. Sure, let's do a roll call.
And just for the record, everybody knows what the motion is on the floor?
Who just asked that, Russ?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make sure that the
Could you
members of the
restate the
committee.
motion, Mr. Chair?
Okay,
Restate the motion,
Ms.
please.
Missy, made the motion. Would you like to restate it, please?
Sure. I made a motion on 18-11 that the applicant come back to this board in May with a specific timeline associated with the construction and completion of the remaining component of the grant project.
And I second it.
Okay, so let's do a roll call vote.
Jay Pendergast,
Yes.
Pat Northey,
Yes.
Jeffrey Alt,
Yes.
Sarah Lee Morrissey,
Yes.
Pat Patterson,
No.
David Romero,
Yes.
Reggie Santilli, Reggie, Stacy Simmons, Jack Surratt.
Yes.
Okay, so with that, I believe we've cleared up the YMCA.
Thank you.
Moving forward, we have another presentation.
I won't bore you with PowerPoint slides this time, but
Okay,
I do
Donna,
want to give
thank
you a
you.
little history. Donna Butler, Community Services Director. So I have been at the county long enough to remember, along with Ms. Northey and I believe Mr. Patterson, when the first ECHO program was initiated. And at that time, the ECHO program had designated staff. They had an activity project coordinator and they had an admin coordinator as staff. As you know, it's moved around the county 5 years ago. Its last resting place was Parks, Recreation, and Culture. And when I became department director, I had heard Twitters in the community about people being uncomfortable with parks managing a program that they could actually apply to. So we brought it to the department level so that anytime any division wanted to apply, it wasn't that type of conflict. So at that time, I also hired Carmen Hall to be my operations manager. Notice that's not how she introduces herself now. She's now the community assistance director. And with that, in the past year, she's more than doubled her budget and kept ECHO with her as she went, but really doesn't have the time that it really takes to administer this program. We, as staff, I'll be honest, did not expect that referendum to pass so overwhelmingly.
Fooled you.
I know you did. We're not unhappy about it, but we just didn't think that folks would be willing to, vote for it again. So we're glad that it did, but we feel like the program needs more attention. So we'd like to recommend going back to the old model. However, we would also like to recommend that the 2 staff positions be paid for out of the ECHO fund. That was not how it was done before. You'll probably hear something similar being recommended for forever. So we kind of want to make it an even playing field. So Jill would stay as the admin coordinator and we would hire somebody new. Carmen's still going to be part of the transition. Don't worry, I know y'all are going to cry because she's done such a fabulous job, but she'll be a consultant to the new person and it'll come back under the department instead of being under her division.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Patterson, I have been here with you on that whole project, and I clearly believe that it is important that we do have that position separate, and I have no problem with ECHO paying for those positions. And so I will move. How do you want the motion made, Ms.?
Well, Russ, do you want to talk about the resolution? And
Yes, ma'am. So it'll just be another motion for recommendation for approval that the county council approve paying for these 2 funds out of the ECHO millage.
I move that we forward a recommendation to the county council to, by resolution, approve these 2 funds be paid out of ECHO proceeds.
Yes, ma'am.
Second.
I have a question. Is there any other situation where funds from ECHO are being paid to the county directly?
Our budget director left, but not to my knowledge. We have a clear accounting that we can show you, the audit report that shows how every last little dime was spent.
Right.
So we actually, even our operating expenses, our copies and the notebooks and everything that you receive comes out of my budget.
Okay. And so this would be a unique situation where we're paying two people's salary because they're designated to ECHO directly.
Right. And if by chance any of those were not fully encumbered by ECHO,
Right.
we would be splitting.
Okay.
So in case there were synergy with other programs that are being developed, and so staff could be combined with other programs to make sure that those were moving forward, kind of together, then we would split the pay.
Would it be beyond salary? Does it include all compensation?
Oh, yes, it does. It includes compensation and benefits.
Okay.
And don't we currently pay for, or are we paying for positions out of Volusia Forever? I know that that's
Are
going to.
paying for some.
Right.
The majority, as a matter of fact, but we still have some remaining in general fund.
Okay.
Primarily, the difference with Forever is, don't forget, we had a land acquisition program before we
Correct.
had Forever.
Yeah.
So they are managing lands that were bought not out of Forever funds.
Okay.
So there is some logic to maybe continuing that. That'll be a council decision how they want to move forward with, if they continue to try and move everyone in.
Because I
or
thought
if
that
they-
was what they were going to do, was try to move everybody
That's probably
in.
the intent,
Yeah.
but there may be that difference that could be allocated by-
I feel perfectly comfortable with this because I think that it is the intention is it will benefit the program and make that accountable, be transparent to the public. So I'm quite comfortable. It's 1.5 positions.
Well, right now, we're asking for authorization for two.
Okay,
If
for
by-
two positions.
So
Okay.
there was some synergy with another program, Forever possibly,
Then
we
there
would
would be, right.
appropriately, we would
Okay.
not overcharge one program and not the
Right.
other.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that.
Out of curiosity, the position would be reporting to whom?
Me.
Very good. And you had mentioned particular staff you had in mind for these two positions?
Well, Jill's currently our coordinator for the ECHO program, so we would leave her there.
Does a great job.
Yes, she does a great job, and she's got a lot of historical knowledge about these projects. But we'd be looking internally. This is a great opportunity for someone that has a lot of energy, a lot of desire to help this program grow. I have a lot of exciting ideas, so the person's got to have a lot of energy and ready to go to, because I don't know if you know, but there used to be something called the ECHO Ranger program. It was she brought it. It was a really cool program for kids in our community to learn about all the ECHO resources. Well, I see the potential of having some synergy and having an ECHO Forever Ranger program and making, opportunities and really trying to figure out how people like me who don't want to go necessarily to Forever properties might be interested. How do we recruit them? How do we, get them to be aware of all the resources that this great community has, both on the ECHO side, the Forever side, and how do we, let's create staycations. Let's also recruit people to come here that don't know about all these wonderful amenities. So
that project manager would be probably coming from with Knowledge Interior. Yes. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I think I missed that. Both the activities project manager and the coordinator would both report to you directly?
Well, the admin coordinator would report to the activity project manager, but yes.
Thank you.
Under the department as a whole.
So with that, I think we need a motion.
I think I made a motion.
Or you made a
Yeah,
motion?
Yeah.
Mr. Patterson seconded.
Mr. Patterson?
And just one final comment. I had the opportunity to speak to Donna a couple days ago, and her enthusiasm for this program was just overwhelming. And I am confident that this next 20 years will be as wonderful as the last 20 years.
I got 7 years to make a lot of cool things happen, so I'm excited. But who's counting?
Pat, did you have a comment? No? No. So we've had a motion, we've had a second.
Should we do a roll call vote just so that we know that we're capturing the two online?
Let's do that.
Jay Pendergast,
Yes.
Pat Northey,
Yes.
Jeffrey Alt,
Yes.
Sarah Lee Morrissey,
Yes.
Pat Patterson,
Yes.
David Romeo,
Yes.
Reggie Santilli,
Yes.
Stacy Simmons,
Yes.
Jack Surratt.
Yes.
All right. Moving on, Carmen will give us the quarterly report on the open grants.
Okay, so this is after the fourth quarter report log for 2020. Our next quarterly grants are not, the reports are not due until, well, they were due yesterday, or they report through yesterday, they're due in a week. And so we have a little bit of a delay. But for those of you that are new members, in your packet, we had a list of all of the open projects. So at every meeting, I provide an update of those projects and their current status. So I'll start with the oldest projects first and kind of move forward. We have two 2016 grants that are still open. Both of these are anticipated to be completed in the next few months. The first one is 1605. It's with New Smyrna Beach, and it's for the First Baptist Church. The acquisition, which can be confusing because the acquisition has occurred, but a portion of that acquisition was a parking lot, and they have a second phase on that building for renovation, and they couldn't complete the parking lot until the second phase of the renovation was complete due to construction concerns. So that's why that project has kind of stayed open for a while. So they anticipate that this project will be completed and closed by the end of June. We also have Volusia County Parks, Recreation and Culture, the Lemon Bluff project, that is anticipated to have construction completed by the end of this month now, April. Okay, so those are our two 2016. We also have two 2017 projects. One is the New Smyrna Beach, the City Annex restoration. That is the second phase of the 1605 project. It also is anticipated to be completed by the end of June. So they will both phases will be completed at the same time. The other project is the Florida Hospital Fish Memorial Community Garden. At this time, no work has gone forward on this project. It does expire in August, so we anticipate a presentation at the next committee meeting, either requesting a time extension or providing an update on that project. In 2018, we have 5 open projects. 2 of these projects have been completed, and we are just handling the retainage, the paperwork of those projects. One is City of Deltona, the center, and the other is New Smyrna Beach, the Babe James Splash Park. So once we process the retainage, they will be off your open projects list. The other is the City of DeLand Swirling Sports Complex. You received a presentation for the time extension on that project today. Yes. I'm in 2018 right now. Okay.
I'm sorry. Before you got to City of DeLand Sperling Sports, what were you talking about?
There's 2 projects in 2018, City of Deltona, the center at Deltona, and also City of New Smyrna Beach, the Babe James Splash Park. Both of those projects, construction has been completed, but we are working on the retainage paperwork, so we can
So
officially.
that's not in, I'm looking at my notebook you all sent me.
Oh,
that's
right.
why I'm confused.
It's just an administrative side that we're trying to close
Okay.
out. So I still have them on my sheets because there's work that we
Okay.
need to do on the back side to close them.
Okay.
So that's why, sorry about that. We also have 1810 YMCA DeLand Playground and also YMCA Ormond Beach. Both of those projects you just received the presentations and had discussion on. In 2019, there are 8 open projects. One is Marine Discovery Center. They are starting to move along. So it is at this point about, the design is, 75% complete, and construction is at about 5%. So they are moving, but they do have a lot more to go. City of New Smyrna Beach, the restoration and stabilization of the old fort wall. At this time, this project is going to be presenting the new cost to City Commission for final direction. I would anticipate a presentation from this grantee at our next meeting on a status of this project. We do anticipate some changes coming forward. We also have 1907 for City of New Smyrna Beach, the restoration and stabilization of the Women's Club. This also, we anticipate a presentation at the upcoming meeting because they are going to have to request a scope amendment to the grant to address some foundation damage in the project. So the next meeting, we'll have a lot of presentations, you can tell. We also have 2 projects in 2019 that have been completed, and we are waiting on a couple administrative items. One is Oak Hill Sunrise Park. We're just waiting on the completion of the sign to be installed, and then we can release retainage and complete that project. And then also Ormond Beach, the field lighting, that project has been completed, and we are releasing retainage. 1910 Ponce Inlet, the Lighthouse Point. That project is moving along very quickly. The playground has been installed, light fixtures, trailways are completed. It is at this point 95% complete, so it probably might even be complete now. The last 2 are 1911 Port Orange, the Rec Center, Phase 1. This project and 1912 YMCA, the Ormond Beach Trail. No progress has been made on either of these projects in the last 2 quarters. We will be inviting them to present a progress update to you at the next meeting. So in 20 projects, we have 11 open projects. These are the last awarded grants. So as you can see, there's more open the closer we get. And the first one is City of Deltona Festival Hoop, and also City of Deltona Fort Smith Blue Heron. These are newer projects, but they haven't made any progress in the last 2 quarters. That's probably fairly common right now, but we will be talking to the grantee and asking them to provide an update on the status of their projects. They also have Rookery Park. This is a unique project. They haven't been able to make any progress on this project because it was determined after the grant was awarded at the county. Actually, there's multiple parcels associated with this grant, and one of the parcels the county actually owns, not the city. And so we had to go and determine, the best avenue to make sure that they had ownership or at least use of the property. And so we are entering into a lease with them for that property. It has been executed on the city side, so we do have to bring it forward to county council, and once that's completed, the project should be able to move forward. So that's a little bit outside of, it was an unknown information at the time. We also have City of Deltona has West Criles Park. That also hasn't had any progress in the last 2 quarters, so we'll be talking to them about coming to the next meeting. City of Holly Hill, Pictonia, that project is completed. City of Ormond Beach, McDonald House. They anticipate construction beginning very soon. The agreement has been approved by City Commission back in December, so that should be moving forward. Also, City of Ormond Beach, the Nova Tennis Lighting. They have not had any progress in the last 2 quarters, so we'll be talking to them about coming and presenting to you. City of Port Orange, Airport Road Park. That project is, the evaluation committee is reviewing those proposals. So once they complete that, construction should start, and it's awarded. City of Port Orange, the Rec Center. Once again, no progress in the last 2 quarters, so they will be invited to present at the next meeting. Ormond Memorial Art Museum, the contractor has been chosen, and that should be moving forward. And Southeast Volusia Historic Society, they had progress last quarter, but not this, or 2 quarters ago, but not this last one. So we will be watching them and seeing if progress starts to be made. So.
Carmen, if you would, I'm trying to wrap my mind around 1603. Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Division, Volusia County, Lemon Bluff Park. Had an opportunity to take a glance at that property, and you said in your statement that they might be completed in a month.
Correct.
And I just have a comment about that. When I went by on a Tuesday morning, it looked like no activity for construction at all. I was very concerned with location of dumpster and heavy equipment next to trees, which I'm assuming were there to be saved. If you could elaborate a little bit, if you have knowledge.
So we've had a lot of challenges with this project. I wish we had Tim here because he could really run you through the whole history of it. It has definitely been a challenge for he and his staff. We had issues with some of the neighbors not being sure that they wanted this park, close proximity. They asked the county originally to come in and take care of the problem of the original Lemon Bluff boat launching. It's a very small launch. You can fit two, but if you're trying to back something in, it's very unwieldy. So then you have all these folks parking on the road. They constantly ask the county to do something about it. So we did, and we purchased this property originally with ECHO funds. And as soon as we developed plans, they didn't want that in their backyard.
It's true.
So, you know, first thing you learn in public administration is the acronym NIMBY. And so we dealt with those challenges. So Tim did a phenomenal job of going back out and talking to the community, figuring out what some of their concerns were. And we had to redo plans to address some of those concerns. We put some barriers in between the neighbors there. And then when we finally brought it forward, the parking wasn't sufficient for what the plans weren't completely done, and the parking wasn't sufficient. So that had to go back on the drawing board. And then of course we've had other construction issues. So the consultant that we were using for some of that was a little slower than we would have liked. So we're really, really hopeful that this is going to be done really soon.
Thank you for
I know
Can I
that
just
probably
add on that?
doesn't-
I think we bought that property when I was on council. I mean, and it has been a real difficult project.
It has.
I've been following it, and Fred's been keeping me up, and that is exactly what has
I mean,
happened.
we had to design gates to go in
Yeah.
and coordinate with the sheriff's office, who agreed that they would come out and help monitor that. They were concerned about evening parties, you know, that whoever would come and have parties and it'd be loud next to their homes.
The neighborhood wanted something fixed, but then when they got the fix, they, whoops, we didn't want that. So
So it's been kind of a hard balance. So Tim's done a phenomenal job
has.
going back to the community multiple times, and that really did slow it down. But we were trying to address the concerns of the citizens at the time. And so I think he's done that. And we're really hopeful this can open up soon, especially since prime voting season's now. Oh, Tim is online. Tim, are you there?
Yeah, hi, can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I was on the old line. I heard a little bit about, I think the question is, what's the status of Lemon Bluff? Is that correct?
Yep.
So Tim, this is Carmen. Donna's kind of elaborated on the whole timeline, how we've gotten here, but there is a question regarding if the project will be able to be completed by the end of April.
Okay, so that's a great question. Let me tell you what has kind of slowed down the progress out there. So when
I did that. Just answer if it's going to be ready.
Well, that's a tough question. It's probably going to be the end of April, early May. When I met out with the contractor and with the county construction engineer, they were working on the tiebacks of the seawall that needed to be repaired. And I believe that is completed. And then everything else moves fast after that. So they just had to repair the seawall that became damaged. And they've made that repair. Now the rest of it should go pretty quickly. So if it's not right at the end of April, it'll be really close to the end of April of it being completely open. The project should be completed. Maybe not the punch list, but at least we would have gone through the final walkthrough.
And the residents are going to love it, aren't they, Tim?
Yeah, well, yes, Pat. And here's the thing: they're going to. I mean, I think the boaters are going to love it to death, right? And I'm hoping that there's not too much loving of the site where they start parking in the right of way where we don't want them to park, right? Because that's going to be a real popular site. Boaters love it, right? Let's just hope that they don't love it too much.
It's a definite maybe.
Yeah, I can tell you, I've worked with some of the residents that are along there, and we're going to be working with the sheriff's office to make sure that if the lot is full, they're not parking in the right of way, because there's plenty of parking there, but there's a lot of boaters out there, and this is a great area of the river that folks want
want to access. I mean, this is one of the few boat launches in that area to get you access to that part of the St. John's. So it's going to be popular.
Yeah, it will be.
Any other questions regarding this project? Okay. All right. Does anybody have any, thank you, Tim.
Okay.
Anybody have any other questions regarding the quarterly reports and the updates? That's good.
Good
Okay.
job.
Yep. Hearing no questions, we'll move on to old business. And while Carmen's right there at the mic, she can explain to us our 2021 Eco Advisory Committee goals.
Okay. So this is a requirement of this committee on an annual basis. They need to develop their annual goals. Our regular year runs October 1st through September 30th. And so these goals would cover that time period. As you guys know, it's April 1st. So we are well into our year, but these goals were presented at the, I want to say it was October, maybe December. I can't remember now, at a previous committee meeting, and we had feedback from the committee at that time. So staff took the goals back and developed that feedback into the goals. And then now we have brought them back again. So some of these items, they have already occurred. So I just want you to know that. So that's why you see some meetings that have already taken place. It's because it does cover the October 1st through September 30th timeframe. Do you guys have any questions? I know you have a copy of the goals in your packet. Does anybody have any questions or recommendations for them?
I'm just going to say, I think I said this when we talked on I'm uncomfortable if you're asking me to vote on these. I'm a new member. I'm supposed to do all these listening sessions and hear what people want. The voters just approved the extension. I'm not saying these are bad. I'm just saying, as a new member who has not been involved in any of your work in the past, I'm uncomfortable being asked to vote on them.
Can we, I'm comfortable with them because I've been here for a long time, but I understand Sarah Lee's concern. And we are going into listening sessions. Can we get a waiver to wait until afterwards? I mean, I don't know how that works, but I do understand Sarah Lee's concern. She has not had an opportunity to.
Right.
Well, and not only that, I think the goals should be updated and we should put more thought to it because some of these things have happened and there may be other.
And like staff said, they weren't expecting us to pass.
Well,
they had little faith.
I'm just giving them a hard time.
We're huddling because it's been a crazy year.
I speak around by your.
I mean, really, the pandemic has impacted people. Let's try to turn it up.
I think they're putting their masks on.
Previous year. So we think that we can fudge enough of when it has to be turned in to do it after the listening sessions so that you guys can have a chance to do that. We totally get it. There's a lot of awkwardness about this year. We just don't meet as frequently.
For the record, though, no fudging needed. You can just push it off till after the listening session and then
just
come up with
delay it.
goals. Yeah.
Good.
Well, the other option,
Want to just, have a consensus that you're requesting to not create goals for the future year of, for the current year. For the current year. I mean, it's kind of too late to make goals for your current year. Right. So if you want to accept, we can just say, hey, we haven't made new goals because we're in the process. In November, we found out that we have another 20 years to look forward to.
We just blame you all because you all
can
didn't
blame
think
us.
it was going to pass.
Well, and maybe I didn't understand it as a lawyer, which is not unheard of, that if there's a requirement and we haven't done it yet, we could also just ask the council to waive that requirement on behalf of the ECHO committee for this year, since we're getting to the end.
Actually,
Well, I
that would
like
be-
that
Yeah,
idea.
that's the
Waive
best
it,
way.
yeah.
I misunderstood that we had.
Put it on the consent agenda. They'll never pay attention to it.
So I think what we can do is prepare them at the end of this fiscal year for the coming year,
Correct.
based on your listening sessions, based on your meeting with the council, and how the two bodies have decided that we're going to move forward with all the different ECHO processes that we have. I mean,
And
there
also
may-
we have a whole new, committee.
Yeah,
Right.
new majority.
Well,
New
and you're
majority.
committed to doing listening sessions, so it probably could very easily be stated that it's.
Okay, we accomplished our goals. Next.
So then is there a motion by the committee that you want to request a waiver for this year's annual goal requirement submission to the council?
I'll move that we request a waiver of goals, that we ask the county council to waive our goal request for this, our goals for this year.
Second.
Joe, would you like to do a roll call?
Jay Pendergast,
Yes.
Pat Northey,
Yes.
Jeffrey Alt,
Yes.
Sarah Lee Morrissey,
Yes.
Pat Patterson,
Yes.
David Romeo,
Yes.
Reggie Santilli, Stacy Simmons,
Yes.
Jack Surratt.
Yes.
Okay, motion approved. Well, our final item is public participation. And we kind of moved it up. Is there any other public participation? Hearing none?
I have a question on old business.
Okay.
Did we just basically skip this year relative to the grant cycle? Because, we didn't do the tour, we didn't do this, and so I'm just wondering,
And let
all
me-
those people that applied, and we asked them for pretty stringent schedules, and yet,
We took no applications this year. We
Okay,
did not have
so
work. We completely postponed it. And actually in May, we'll be asking you to make a decision on whether you want to, after the listening sessions are complete and after you've had an opportunity to meet with county council, do you want to have a compressed schedule during this fiscal year? Or do you want to wait and begin the new 20-year cycle in the next, fiscal
I
year in
understand.
October,
When would the typical applications come in?
October, November, in the fall?
And so in the fall, we decided we don't want your applications.
But that's not what happened. We waited to see what the vote happened. And then as we kept moving through processes, quite a few people on the council were very concerned that we would start a process, go to listening sessions, change the process, and then start over again. And so the consensus was between staff and the elected officials and senior management, the county manager and so forth, that'd be easier for the applicants and for staff to wait until the listening sessions were complete. You all had made your recommendations to council, council had agreed, or you modify, and then start clean with new rules, or if they're the same, they're the same, but definite decision on what the rules are going forward.
Understood, but it's just understood now. I wish I had known that when that transpired.
It transpired relatively recently.
Yeah, last fall.
No, the decision.
Oh, okay. That's fine, and I think we should. I don't see any problem with that. But in the case of the listening sessions, is the objective of the listening sessions to evaluate how we operate? Like, I'm trying to get I understand what we're presenting, and I saw that, and that's clear to me. And it's basically saying to the public what the process is. Are we looking to potentially change the process based on the input of the public?
You are welcome to do that. So the listening sessions are your opportunity to hear from the public and probably not discuss a lot at the listening sessions. Have more hearing than speaking, only speaking probably to say, did I understand this? Is this what you're saying? What about this? So that you're having a nice dialogue about the issue, but not making decisions at that time. We'll take all that information for you, compile it into hopefully some sort of a a path for decision making. And then you all will sit down, and it'll probably be a lengthy meeting and probably if all goes well, a one topic meeting. So we can really focus on what you're recommending. The previous seated board already had made a bunch of recommendations, and maybe the public supports all of those, and that's easy. But there may be some other things that you want to consider. So it's your opportunity to hear from the public and then come back together as a body, because those meetings really aren't for decision making.
Right. Yet we still need a quorum, and I'm wondering about that. Since we're asking for a quorum, it sounds like there needs to be enough people there to potentially make decisions.
No, we just are required to have one in order to hold the meeting.
Okay, gotcha. But it does sound like we're really evaluating all of the ECHO position, the way it operates and how it's done.
Sure.
I mean, that's pretty open. Well, I think it's great.
Good.
Well, I have a question, Donna. We had spent a lot of time last year reviewing the grants and the applications and really wordsmithing this page by page by page.
Right.
And there were quite a few recommendations that were made on how to streamline it and,
It was a workshop.
clarify it.
Right. Those will all be presented. The majority of them, the small little details were not, but the high level decisions that you discussed and made recommendations on, they will be presented. They're all in the PowerPoint. I did the voiceover. It'll be out there. And then if people have questions about those because they don't necessarily understand, you all can, address that and say, well, this is what we meant by that recommendation, so that they're aware and they can kind of say, oh, yay, okay, that makes sense, or don't really understand that.
Well, I guess where I'm going with it is if we start reviewing all of those issues again, that will delay your grant cycle.
Well, you're going to have one, maybe two meetings to talk about all of the results from the listening sessions. If you want to keep to the schedule of meeting with the council at the end of May or the beginning of June. I think the June meeting's June 2nd.
Because we've already lost really a year of grants.
Understood.
So I think it's important that we get the grant cycle started quickly. Of course, it has to be done correctly, but I'd like to see the grant cycle start as soon as possible so that we can start helping the not-for-profits and the other organizations that need the ECHO funding.
Sure. You'll just have to decide whether you want that to occur during this fiscal year or if you want to start afresh, because if you have it happen this fiscal year, then we would still have another cycle next fiscal year, which would start in the fall. So your call. We can make it happen if that's what you desire as a board, or we can just wait until the win.
Damn. We need to discuss that, but probably not tonight.
Right.
Can I just ask a question about the listening sessions? First time we ever did them, we actually asked people what it was that they would like to see happen, what kind of projects. And I want to be sure that as far as we're talking about implementation language at the sessions, that we also don't lose the value of hearing from people of what next, what projects are they interested in seeing us do. And then that information can go out to the cities or the county or the not-for-profits. But I think that's important that people feel ownership of the project.
If you want, we could draft a few bullets that way that the chair could start off the meeting after it's called to order, say, hey, you're going to hear a presentation, the history, where we are now, and some recommendations that we as a collective board, I know not everybody was on the board at that time, made, as well as audit comments, which we pretty much have to do all the audit comments. So we won't go into have a lot of discussion about those. I'll cut that out. But you could say, we're also interested in hearing from you about what you want. What do you want to see funded? How do you want to see it funded? One of the questions Ms. Northey and I talked about was one that was brought up in the workshop when it was over in the historic courthouse. Excuse me. And that was about capital maintenance. And you can call it a lot of different things. Mr. Brown and I were discussing various ways to do it. But that capital maintenance is not cleaning a floor, painting a building. Well, it might be painting a building, but it's not regular operational maintenance that happens. Operational maintenance is day-to-day work that the nonprofit or city should be able to maintain on their own as part of their operating budget. This is, I have this building that I've had in place for 20 years. The air conditioning's gone, the roof is gone. We want those folks to still be successful. So that was contemplated when we put the language together for the ballot. So you all need to decide whether you want to recommend that and how you want to recommend that that would work. So things like that, and ask the public, do you think that's a good idea? I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of neat ideas that'll be brought forward to you all, but definitely let's solicit that kind of.
Okay.
I would,
Donna, just to clarify, because I'm a new board member here, the contract, let's see, how did you term it? So the application period starts with applications being submitted in October in the fall.
Well, actually, we start with 2 workshops. They can choose from one or the other. They're mandatory. So if you want to apply for ECHO funds, you have to attend a workshop. And there, Carmen and Jill have laid out everything that an applicant needs to know about filling out that application. Then, go ahead.
Go ahead.
But do you want me to run quickly through the steps?
That would be great, because I was just really interested to know the process when you do the site visits, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, so from there, we have a technical review. So then application is supposed to be submitted complete. In many cases, it's not always complete, but it's provided a technical review by staff, which again is Jill, Carmen, sometimes some other additional staff, all hands on deck to look at the applications. And the applicant is provided a list of their deficiencies or ways that they need to become more clear, missing documents, things like that. Then they get a month later, I believe it is usually, they submit their regular application. All those are submitted to you all. And from there, a meeting is scheduled, and it's a long day because you're driving individually. You can't drive together to each spot. And each spot, the staff members of that organization will be there. So it's probably about a 3-month process. 3-month process. What's he saying?
So our site visits are normally completed, I would say, end of January. Last year they're end of January. Sometimes they've been a little bit later. And then we also, after that, we have our grant review panel, which takes place probably, we tried to do those pretty close together because most committee members, they've already read through the applications. They've already seen the sites. Their questions are answered. And then we will, they just need to compile their scores. And so normally a few weeks after that, we actually have the grant review panel where the committee actually provides their scores and then makes recommendations to county council.
They did not take the applications.
Right, we did
And
not.
so there was no sites to review.
Correct.
But I'm sure there were applications prepared. They just weren't.
No, we never received any applications.
I know, but I mean, on their end, I don't think they ever gave them to you, but I mean, they attended the workshop, for instance.
No, we never had
The workshop last.
Nope, that was the year before.
Ah,
Yep.
okay. I see, no
So-
workshop.
Could your workshops begin in August like they typically do? And then your grant cycle, when you're actually issuing the grant, it's going to be the following like January or something.
That'll have to be a determination
You know,
made
because
at the,
if the workshops are pushed back until October, and then that means all the review process, by the time we start issuing the grants, we're going to be even further behind.
Well,
You know,
so I think that'll be a determination made when we do the workshop with county council at that point, probably.
Yeah, so we're trying to, what we'll be asking is if you want to have 2 grant cycles. If you want to have this year's grant cycle late, very, very late, and then start next year's as it normally would. I think one of your recommendations was to compress the cycle a little bit too, so that there wasn't so much time being spent in between. But so you can start a cycle in July, August, if all the documents can be prepared and so forth, that'll take a little bit. You could start the workshop process, but you need to decide what fiscal year it's for. That's the only decision.
Okay.
I don't know if is this the time when we can just ask stuff? Is that what we're doing? I wanted to ask about our meeting schedule because I don't want to get kicked off. And you can only miss 2. In your goals, you listed 4 meetings, two of which, if you count today, two have occurred. So I got May 13th and August 12th. If I'm interpreting this right, do we have other meetings scheduled?
So in a normal year, we would hold these meetings, but we would also hold two separate meetings, which are under the grant cycle. And that would be your site visits and eligibility meeting, which was not held at this point in this fiscal year, and your grant review panel meeting. Those are two additional meetings that would require attendance by the ECHO Advisory Committee. And they have not been held, but if a grant cycle was to be held in this fiscal year, we would hold those meetings moving forward.
So is May 13th and August 12th are the second Thursdays of the month, but April 1st was the first Thursday and October 22nd is there any consistency to our meeting schedule?
So April 1st, this meeting was an added meeting. It wasn't when we originally put the schedule together at the beginning of the fiscal year. This meeting was not on the schedule. It was something added.
So should I plan for the second Thursday of the month?
So yeah, it depends because our next meeting is May 13th. And we are anticipating having the workshop with County Council the end of May, early June. Don't have an exact date. So a lot of that depends on how many times do you think as a committee we should meet regarding the listening session comments? Do you think one time will be enough, or do you think we should go ahead and schedule additional meetings in May to where you can have more discussion on those items? It's kind of a hard thing to determine at this point because we don't know the amount of public comments we're going to receive at this point. But that is something that we'll have to determine as a committee if we need to schedule another meeting for May.
Sarah Lee, it's not usually been this complicated scheduling meetings, but this has been a unusual year. And with the reauthorization, I think that has really turned everything kind of upside down. But normally we have a normal schedule and we know in advance, but when trying to be responsive to the listening sessions and to council.
Normally have a schedule that is approved by the committee at the first meeting in the fiscal year, and it very rarely will change. This year we have had to adjust all times. So I know that doesn't answer your question.
I'm just concerned. It's a personal problem, I know. I'm just concerned with some other stuff I have and not having.
If you have problems with these dates, if you let us know now, we'll start to find other ones.
No, I'm okay with what is on this thing.
We'll poll whether or not you're able to attend prior to setting a meeting.
Yeah.
So we'll send out a poll and say, and a lot of times we use multiple dates when we ask. And so we might give you two options. And if we get, 8 out of 9 for one and 6 out of.
Well, with that, Jeffrey, do you have a question or concern?
Not a question. I just want to sort of echo what Pat Northey was talking about. Going into the year 2000, the whole year before was planning on what the vision was for ECHO. And we have these listening sessions. I would have preferred them to be called visioning sessions because I would love to know what people want to see in the year 2040. What will we accomplish in these 20 years? And then how do we get there? That's just a comment.
I think that's a good comment.
We do have one more public comment, if you will entertain. I know we skipped over that part in the agenda, but.
Okay. We can hear one more person.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to comment on all of the hard work and dedication that the advisory board put into the changes to the guide and the application. And I really don't know whatever happened to it. All of those recommendations. And am I hearing correctly that we're going to start going through that again?
The PowerPoint that was in your book shows what they are and just says they're already recommendations. We're not going to If
Okay.
someone wants to say that, no, they don't like it, fine, they can say that.
Okay.
But we're letting them know that it's already recommendations. Could they change? Sure. This is a new body. They can make those recommendations. But the plan is that they're kind of presented this way.
Okay, so they haven't just disappeared. You all do have, you have those in your booklet. Okay, that's what, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask staff just a real quick question? Because I'm trying to find, I found the agenda on the web page, but I did not find the supporting documentation. So for like the public or for like me who prefers to use an iPad rather than the hard copy, where do I, and I know you sent it to me, but I didn't save that. I thought that would be ongoing.
Right.
But how does the public access the backup material for the agenda? Because I'm not finding it.
Right. So at this point, just the agenda itself is available on our website. We can add the attachments and make them available also on the website. I submit them out to the committee. I use the BizCom.
I really think that that's important to do and is part of transparency. I know that people were interested in the Plantation Oaks agenda packet.
Right.
So I think we need to, I'll tell you who has a good model, and I can't believe I'm going to be saying this because their website for so long was bad. Deltona has a dashboard of all their committees and then the agenda for the next meeting or any back agendas. And you just tab on whatever committee you want, and then you can select an agenda, and it's right there for the public to use.
The whole agenda package.
Yeah, so I would hope that we would get there, maybe not just for Echo, but for all of them.
Right.
Well, with all that said, if there are no further comments for staff or comments in general, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.